Oh,
here.
nice.
You know what I mean?
Spency Wency.
Spency, motherfucking Wency. What is up?
What's up?
Sucio talk. Hanging out here with my main man, Chef Spencer Horovitz. What up, Chef?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Dirty D.
Yeah,
How we
man.
doing, man?
In the flesh, right?
Wow.
How you been?
Good. It's been a minute, huh?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Whew. Things are going good, yeah.
We had some Nashville hot chicken the
Hot
other day. Which
hot
was,
rabbit.
Or hot rabbit, that's right.
Yeah.
What am I fucking saying? From Chef Jeff Davis.
Yeah, shout out.
So shout out to him. Burdell, Oakland. He just had his second pop-up.
Yeah, he's been doing a couple of them. I'm real excited for all that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're doing right now. You are going to be the chef of Slug Bar, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm so excited. It's going to be amazing to be cooking in Oakland.
Yeah.
I feel like Oakland is kind of like the nexus of like really amazing food going on in the city in the Bay right now. I think so many cool chefs are experimenting and doing different cool things, and you know, it's a chance for kind of people to try new cuisines and cultures and really experiment without kind of like the establishment and kind of the, you know, some of the ideas and ways of thinking that have been really popular in the Bay for a long time in San Francisco, and like fine dining culture and restaurant culture in general. So
heard that. I mean, I see Oakland being what San Francisco was 10 years ago, 10 years from now.
Oh, totally.
Oakland's going to be something to reckon, you know, and when you come to the Bay Area, you are going to have no choice but to come to Oakland and fucking.
And I think what's going on now too, a lot of this comes from the post, you know, that we're still in COVID, but you know, the after effects of all these cooks being out of work and having so much talent unutilized, and people just saying like, you know what, I'm going to start a project, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I can count all my closest friends, you know, a lot of people who I consider, you know, people I look up to in the industry have done really amazing things during the pandemic. And just like after the 2008 financial crisis, when a ton of restaurants and really well-known established concepts started, you know, I forget how old Stapert is, but a lot of restaurants like that, you know, all these places got started in that post era when people are like, you know what, financially it makes sense to go out on my own and start doing my own thing. And I think in the time we're at right now, like that's what makes Oakland so cool. People are just like, you know what, I want this. I've been wanting this for a long time and I'm ready to start doing it. Yeah.
The West Oakland Farmers Market is a good beacon of that change in the city. Like people are getting after it. They're, you know, doing things in the food community. There's also a lot of strong food media out here, underground food media, trying to sort of, you know, get the farmer in the spotlight. And I think her name is like Tiffany Keong, I think is her name.
Not familiar.
She's somebody that I've been looking at on Instagram, and you know, she's fighting the fucking the movement here in Oakland, and I hope that I can get to have her here on the show and all the other magnificent people in the Bay Area. Yeah, fucking putting restaurants, food, and farmers on the map.
Yeah, I think that's the, you know, I think everyone loves to know their chef. Everyone loves to know their restaurant, but knowing your farmer, I think, is just as important. You know,
100%, if not more. Yeah,
one of the things I really like about Jeff's food, like we were talking about earlier, is every vegetable he puts on the plate. And Andres, the owner at Snail Bar, to his credit also, they can tell you like, okay, these carrots are from this place, these this lettuce is from this farm, these tomatoes, and they highlight that. We're like, okay, their dish creation process starts with like those vegetables as the idea point. You know, it's like, we got these amazing carrots. Okay, now, and then that's what I was thinking about this dish. And so knowing your farmer and knowing your vegetables and like why you chose this farm for strawberries, but we chose, you know, this farm for blueberries, I think is an important part of the game. And I wish more people, you know, when they go to the farmer's market, identify that, you know, because farmers specialize. They do things, you know, there's obviously people who grow things, a lot of everything, but then there's guys who are like, look, I'm really good at this one thing, like Brentwood corn or Zuckerman Farms asparagus, or, you know, so
Zuckerman Farm, shout out to them.
Yeah.
Best asparagus on the market.
Yeah, get it while you can.
Fucking Roscoe, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
Been doing it down there. Got the jumbos. Got the jumbos on pre-order. You got to call them in on December.
Man, yeah, right. The second the dish goes off, man, you got to start.
Everybody's buying it. You only got a month of spring in fucking California anyway.
Spring is always the tough one for me because things move so quickly. You know, you're like, man, this is great. By the time you R&D the dish, you're like, well, all right, next year we'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. Next year we'll get it. So It's almost like you have to be, a year ahead.
I think,
shit,
that's like the Meadowood stuff to plan with the farmer, like, 12 months out what we're going to be making. Like,
I would say
that's hard to do.
Between all the planning that I've ever seen for a dish, the best dishes I feel get better when you put them on the menu and you have to figure it out.
Oh, and you iterate them. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah. I think that like you can get choice paralysis by like what microgreen should we put on this, or like what beautiful herb. Like, run the dish. That's your best way to get feedback. I love when you're running a dish and you're super happy with it, confident, and you bring it to a guest. Usually like the regulars are the best vehicle for this, or front of house, or the cooks themselves running a dish, and it changes by the end of the night. We're plating it differently, or like, hey, let's nappe the sauce a little differently, or like let's garnish it this way, or hey, you still have that oil from the last dish, let's put that on it. Yeah. And then it changes, and like that makes it feel much more organic than like the dish is done. Here's how we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So. You have no leeway.
Yeah, it's make it happen. You're like, well, we only have,
That's why I like that Meadowood. There was only like 7 of this plate, so we always had to have a backup.
Oh,
and we'd wash and try to get the one that we wanted all the time, but sometimes when there was no choice, we just had a backup dish and we used it, and there was no like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, how are they going to eat that?
Exactly. So, here on Sucio Talk, we take it all the way back.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Spencer, where were you born?
I was born in North Hollywood, California.
Good, right?
Oh, there we go.
You don't got to. That's all right. You'll be good.
All right, let me mix me up. Yeah. So I was born in North Hollywood Hospital in Southern California. I grew up in Encino, Woodland Hills, Sherman Oaks, Tarzana, Valley.
Encino, man.
Encino, yeah. All the things you've heard are true.
Yeah, they're true. It's fucking hot.
Yeah, it's hot as fuck.
I film porn there.
Yeah, porn, weed, capital of the world,
Porn and weed.
I always joke that like the people, a lot of the people who like make movies or had a career always move to the Valley, and kind of like that's like the retirement in Hollywood. You move to the Valley. Okay. But now that was what it was like 30 years ago. Now it's like all the stars live in the hills in Calabasas and shit like that.
Right.
So it's a whole fucking thing.
Okay. So your upbringing there, what did your mom and dad do?
So my father sells jewelry. He has worked in jewelry his whole life. Yeah, so he started off
like grills.
No, like diamonds. But I mean, yeah, he can hook you up.
Yeah.
So he started his own business at 18 and was selling jewelry in kind of like a pawn shop. And he owned a couple pawn shops in South Florida.
Right.
And then he slowly worked his way up and eventually opened a store with my mother on Melrose Boulevard back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And, they were doing jewelry for movie stars and actors and, musicians like Dwight Yoakam at the time was popping off.
Whoa.
Cher would come in. ZZ Top. My dad made a couple rings for them and jewelry for them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he made a guitar pick that ZZ Top uses and stuff like that. So my mom designs jewelry.
Okay.
She would design antique jewelry.
Is that how they met?
Yeah, they met in the jewelry business,
college.
Yeah, well, no, Wizard School.
They don't have jewelry college.
They do. So they have the GIA, which is kind of like the CIA of jewelry, which is like
what is it? The Garment Institute of America.
It's Gemological Institute of America. I think.
Right.
So my dad went to that, and then my mom just apprenticed around and stuff like that. So
crazy.
So they kind of they met, and they had this store in Melrose for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always felt like it seemed very familiar, the idea of like cooking in general and hospitality, because when a client comes into the store, my dad, a big thing for them is making them feel welcome. So I don't know if you've ever seen Uncut Gems before.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Is that a documentary about your father?
It was like I can't tell you how real that was.
Kevin Garnett just like in there.
There's a scene, and I tell everyone this. There's a scene in that movie when Kevin Garnett comes in and he's like, "Hey, Sandy, or Sandy, that's my dad's name, Adam Sandler's character." He's like, "Hey, I'm looking at this ring," and he's like, "Oh, great, let me take a look at that watch for you."
Yeah.
So, and then I was watching with my girlfriend, and I was like, "Watch, this is what's gonna happen. He's gonna take his watch off. He's gonna offer to clean it. And then he's going to put a new watch on his wrist, and he's going to buy it." So Kevin Garnett's like, "Yeah, I'm looking at that. Yeah, thanks." But he's like, "Oh, why don't you take off your piece? I'll wash it for you." And psychologically, what happens is you trust the person who's selling the jewelry to you, because you're like, "Oh, you're doing this nice thing for me. You're washing." People don't know washing a piece of jewelry it's doesn't take any time. You just drop it into a bath.
Yeah.
But psychologically, like someone's like scrubbing it back there with like a little toothbrush.
Right.
Like that's what goes on in your head. But in reality, you just drop it in a bath. So now the person comes in the shop, right? They're looking at this piece of jewelry, and then they feel that it feels uncomfortable to not have a piece of jewelry that you've been wearing all day.
Right.
So you want to feel comfortable by putting on another piece of jewelry, right? And then all the lights are specifically tailored in a jewelry store to be very beneficial for jewelry and make them extra sparkly.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have this new beautiful piece of jewelry on. You feel safe. You feel trusted by the person who's washing your jewelry for you. You're primed to spend money, right? And that's literally what happens when Kevin Garnett comes in. He's like, takes his watch off, or I think it was either watch or ring or something, tries on another piece, and then buys it right then and there.
Right.
So I was just like, that movie is so realistic to what it's like to just the sound of buzzing in and out of a jewelry store is like ingrained in my head from being a kid. Like, you know, going around the corner at my mom's shop to like go buy a croissant or something, and then having to like stand there and like ring the doorbell, get buzzed in, and then buzzed in again to the second little vestibule, and then into the shop. So very, very realistic.
That's awesome. How long have they been doing that? Their whole lives?
Yeah, basically. Okay. Yeah. And, you know, early 90s, there was kind of an economic downturn, a slight recession.
Right.
Price of gold skyrocketed. A lot of the people, there was a stock market crash in Japan that affected a lot of international people who were coming in and buying, you know, Rolexes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the tourists from Asia would come in and buy the smaller size Rolexes. So that's what we always had. They were spending a lot of money. So that business tapered off. And then my father wanted to buy out his business partner because things were going really well and they weren't really agreeing on a lot of stuff. There was kind of like a little bit of tension. So then he bought out his business partner, and that was just a confluence of issues. So unfortunately, like they lost their business, we lost our house, and then my parents split. That was like all in a couple of years. And then both of them lost their fathers, passed away. So it was just a real shit year.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Happens in 5 over there. Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
You know, so they split, and then, you know, that's kind of like being a child of divorced parents, I think is like a real, unless you've been a child of divorced parents, other kids don't really get it.
No, they don't.
You know, and it's not a good or bad thing.
No, it's not.
You know, you get two Hanukkahs or whatever, you get 2 Christmases, but you know, that I think I identify with kids who are divorced, like you just kind of get it, you know, in a different way.
I was able to take a picture with my mom and dad. I've only been able to do that, you know, when I was a baby, and then once 5 years ago, and then again now recently.
Oh wow!
And it's like, you know,
it's crazy,
so
right?
When I get a chance to do it, I'm like, we have to do this because I don't, you know, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, but they're more than gracious to do it. They're not like, you know, bitter anymore. You know, some families stay bitter after.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Like,
I'm really fortunate that like my mom will babysit for like my dad's, my half brothers, like my mom's grandmother who passed away recently, or my mom's mother who passed away recently, my grandmother, would like babysit, and we'd all come over for dinner. The family was really tight. Like my dad says it all the time, like, oh, I still love your mother, and da-da-da. They just didn't, you know, they were, my dad has extremely bad ADD, and I think my mom does too. She's like a creative. So like
really
the two of them together are like, I mean, go figure that like, but yeah. So I think the two of them just like were terrible with money, had 2 kids, economic downturn, and then all this shit going on. Like, of course, you know, you guys would end up arguing and wouldn't, you know how to you know, communicate well. And I mean, all this like emotional learning people do now, like these weren't fucking available skills back then. Like how to have an emotional conversation with someone without yelling or like even hashing out conflict. You just yell and then you forget about it. And you're like, who's gonna make dinner? All right, and then you forget about it. You know. So they split up, and my dad continued selling jewelry. My mom continued making jewelry, and now
would they see each other at like jewelry conferences?
No. It was they still like would share clients and business and stuff like that too.
Okay,
so, like,
so
my
it was
mom
like they kept it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They kept it kosher.
Kosher.
Hey,
there you go.
I love it.
On the board.
Hey, boom. One for Sucio. Okay.
I think that the concept of like hospitality to me feels kind of similar to like a craft where like my mom is designing jewelry. She physically worked at a workbench, like had a drill, press all these crazy chemicals. So that always reminded me a little bit of the craft of cooking.
Yeah, like a mad
like that
scientist
kind of made sense. Much more of like Geppetto's workshop, because she was like old school. Now it's like mad scientist because they use like crazy software and all this design. She does everything by hand. Like she's there with a drill and a press and like a file and like, permanent carpal tunnel.
Damn.
So she does that. And then my dad kind of like, welcoming these affluent guests into his business. That to me feels like front of house, right? You're kind of like this kind of like catering, kind of having baby soft hands with the rich people.
So it's like hospitality.
It felt, that's why I feel like cooking makes sense on a level removed from the food and wine. That element of like a craft, making jewelry, and hospitality, bringing people in, making them feel wanted, making them want to spend money, feels very similar. Very, very familiar,
Very cool.
So that was a portion of where I think my desire for cooking came from. But
did you cook it all at home or anything? Like,
so that was a big thing. My mom is like she's like the OG queen of the mystery basket. Like she can just like whip up whatever in the fridge.
Anything?
Yeah, she's really, she's a really great cook. She huge on using herbs. She was using parsley and cilantro like no other person was. And then like she would eat like herb salads and stuff like that.
I like that.
And a lot of that, like that's a lot of my cooking is fresh herbs. So
dude, herbs are so important.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple dishes with, 3 or 4 different herbs on top.
Yeah. That pasta with just the big ass flat leaf parsley.
Oh yeah.
Just toss
Hell
it in
yeah.
there.
Hell yeah. Like wilted down a little bit.
Just a little bit. So there's still a little bit of bite in there. God damn it.
So she crushes it, and her mom is Greek. She's half Greek, half Lithuanian.
Okay.
And her mom is Greek, and she's not from like the sexy boat, like living on Mykonos Greek. She's from like the country. She's in like the hills, it's like the hill country in Siatisa, which is like, it's like a lot of goat and lamb and a lot of cheeses and a lot of like, it's almost like very, I don't want to say Baltic, but like it's very almost Eastern European,
right?
Because it's not really. She didn't really eat a lot of fish. So we would eat like moussaka, and we would eat spanakopita and like tarema, which is like this fish spread, basically, this like roe spread, and a lot of pita and orzo and stuff like that.
Orzo, delicious.
Couscous, all that kind of stuff. But so we, she grew up cooking that stuff. My grandma's a great cook. And then my dad, his side of the family are all the patriarchs, all the men in the family would cook. That was like really the big. Okay. So my grandfather on my dad's side worked for Hebrew National for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a deli in South Florida that was bought by Hebrew National. And then he became like the president of the company for a long time. And supposedly he's the one who came up with the phrase, "We answer to a higher power."
Yeah.
Hebrew National, we answer to a higher power.
That was from your family.
I mean, I don't know. I have no way to substantiate that. That's a real easy claim to make. Like, yeah, we came up with that, and no one can say differently.
Let's just say that's. But
I'm gonna go ahead and take it.
Yeah, just take it, bro.
Take
it for the family.
Yeah. So they have a strong deli background. They would make pastrami at the deli, eating lox, all that stuff, all that classic Jewish food, matzo ball soup, making matzo ball soup. All that stuff was my family. Was my dad's side of the family.
Dope, man. So you really strong food upbringing.
Yeah, like an appreciation for food and for quality.
Did you see yourself doing it professionally then?
No, when I was my first ever inclination of whatever I would want to do was comedy or like or like comedy.
I think a lot of us were
acting. Yeah, because like
we had to entertain ourselves.
Yeah, I'd entertain myself. I always was the class clown. I was always in the back of the room cracking jokes and making people laugh.
You're always trying to find the funny.
Yeah, because I think that like when you're a kid, I would diffuse a lot of uncomfortable situations with humor. If your parents are yelling and then you slide in there and go for like the laugh track, like, oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's easy to diffuse a lot of like uncomfortable situations with humor.
Yeah.
Especially for me too, because I was never an accomplished student or able to focus in class really. I would use comedy as a way of diffusing like, okay, this kid kind of sucks when he's like trying to sit down and do his homework. Making jokes and stuff like that. I feel like I would try and compensate a little bit. But I always loved, watching. I would watch the Three Stooges a lot with my dad as a kid. So that type of like physical humor was hilarious.
Yeah.
Lots of Happy Gilmore, lots of Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, early SNL, all stuff I loved and always thought was really funny.
Right.
And the notion of cooking professionally wasn't something that developed until way later.
What was your first job?
My first cooking job was, so I was interested, I would cook at home a lot because my parents would be working. So I would, I think that like I was watching some stupid cooking show or something, and then I made like a box cake for myself, and it was terrible. But I frosted. I went the whole fucking 9 yards. I frosted it, got the fucking. And I was like, okay, maybe not baking. So I like, I started.
Maybe not this.
Yeah, maybe not that.
That's math.
Yeah, it's math.
You weren't good at school, so
so I was like, I can't do this. Let's pivot a little bit.
Yeah, can we go to like something that has high and low?
Exactly. Yeah, high and low, salt.
I can
sweet.
work in oven.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I was interested in cooking, and my dad had a client that he was selling jewelry to, and it was at this like hotel right near the airport called the Airtel Hotel near Burbank Airport.
The Airtel Hotel.
Yeah, Holiday
Hotel.
Holiday
that's a different world in there.
Like big banquets
community.
For like so different. The like hotel world.
70 people on staff.
Oh yeah, no, but this wasn't like a nice hotel by any means, or a nice. This was like banquet hall for your 50-year high school anniversary.
Right.
That type of place where they do like the Baron of roast beef. You ever heard of it? It's like a whole beef leg, basically.
The Baron of roast beef.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the whole beef leg or what the fuck cut it was, but I remember working like the banquet station there and having like a giant like fucking beast of a roast that I was slicing pieces off. So he got me this job there, and I remember one of the few things I really remember about that job was it was when I first started, because I was like I think I was like 13 or 14 at the time, and you could only work a certain amount of hours. It was like you had to be legally,
like 18 or 16 hours or some shit.
So I had to get some paperwork filled out by my school before they were even allowed to let me like be on premises. So he, the person who hooked me up with the job, was like, "All right, work a breakfast shift," and I was like, "Sick, I'll do that." So my mom drove me there at like 5:30 in the morning to work like the scrambled egg like buffet, like omelet station. Yeah, with like a bunch of like badass line cooks, like guys who are like, "Who the fuck is this kid?"
God bless your mom, man.
Yeah, I know. Like
for getting up early as fuck to
believing
take
in me. Yeah, she was, she wasn't like, she was like, "Okay, have a good time." I'm sure on the drive home by herself, she's like, "Motherfucking kid, better.
Yeah,
it's better pan out.
Yeah, exactly.
You better be famous someday." But so I remember working this breakfast shift, and then like I was trying not to be in the way, so I would just like be off on the side, and the guy would be like, "All right, put a little parsley on this and send it." And so I did that. The whole service was trying not to get in the way, and then lunch shift came around, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll learn how to make sandwiches. You guys, sure, whatever." And I just kind of like proceeded to like hang out, but not really annoy anyone so much that they told me to get out of there. So I ended up working like a 14-hour shift that day just because no one told me to leave.
Right.
And I didn't know in my head, like, okay, I can leave whenever I want. But I was just like, oh, I think I'm doing a great job. So I worked like a 14-hour. My mom picked me up at like 8:30, and she's like, what the fuck did you do all day? And I was like, I don't know. Like I came home and like I had like avocado on my pants, like I didn't really know how to use a side towel yet. So I was just like make a little mess and then kind of wipe it on your pants, when you're first learning and shit. So obviously it was like, that was my first job. I did that for a little bit. And then next job after that was fucking Chili's. Fuck yeah, dude.
So you went to the big leagues right away.
I was like, I need to learn, because I had read so much of like
you went to eat there and you're like, these ribs are fantastic.
Where's the chef?
I need to
let me talk
how
to the chef.
This.
I was reading a lot of news media, and everyone basically was saying, like, if you want to really learn how to cook, go to a short order restaurant. Go to a place like that, and understand systems. And
I worked at KFC,
dude. Honest as a first entry point for figuring out. One, it's important for like, okay, most people will hate it and be like, okay, I don't need to deal with that the rest of my life. The speed
it's not
of like
about art; it's about feeding people,
and like the exposure of like what these restaurants are like, and working in a team, and so I did that for like year and a half, working Mother's Day. I would work during the lunch rush, which was like the busiest point of the restaurant, because people come in and want to eat in like 35 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's where I got the, there was this crew of like badass cooks from like Oaxaca, and all of them were just like so fucking dope. Their kitchen crew, like as a joke, they named their like little gang of like kitchen crew Platos Locos instead of Vatos Locos.
Okay,
like
so that's where that comes.
That's where
your
comes from.
Instagram
Yeah, the
comes
crew.
from.
Yeah, shout out the chili store and
word up. So Platos Locos is your Instagram now. I know. Now we know the story. Originated
that was the crew.
Chili's.
Yeah, and it was they really taught me so much about working in a restaurant, and I was taking Spanish at the time, so being able to communicate in Spanish was extremely helpful, and showed them like, hey, I'm serious about this job. I really want to be here. You guys are all fucking great. So I did that for a while, and it was really tough because I was going to school in the mornings. So I'd work, I'd take 1 or 2 classes at community college in the morning, and then I would work at Chili's for lunch rush, and then I would go to another community college on the other side of the valley for another 2 classes, because I was trying to transfer to SDSU. They had a hospitality program there. And it was a terrible idea to think that was ever small, to try and take school classes in the morning, work like a busy lunch shift, and then have like an accounting class at night.
You can't even use your brain.
I would look at the whiteboard, and the numbers would like move around. And the guy would be like, would call on me, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That happens to me in class a lot.
Yeah,
I can't pay attention.
No, and I later realized, like, obviously with my ADD, it's like that's not helping. Like, to be physically exhausted and then go to school at night, and do an accounting class. Like, I need to do any math, any of that stuff, any of those math classes. I always have to do in the morning.
Yeah,
and it has to be the first thing I do, like after coffee. I can't do any. I can do creative stuff at the end of the night,
right? But
I have to do like paperwork. Putting in orders for restaurants. Sometimes at the end of the night, if it's over the weekend, I'll just like, well, I don't want to fucking forget anything, so I'll take my little notes, and then the next morning I'll enter all my orders and shit like that. Just so you don't like, it's hard to focus, concentrate. You're trying to get the fuck out of there,
I like to do it before service starts. That's why I have the cooks tell me the order.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because then you can kind of monitor too what you've used, and just keep a closer eye on it. Like, you told me you didn't need cabbage, and we only sold 2 cabbage, but you need cabbage.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's the best.
What happened to the cabbage? Oh shit! I burned a whole sheep pen. Told no one.
Yeah, Go. Then don't look in the compost. You'll see 10 pounds of almonds. Yeah. Where'd those almonds go?
We've all been there. You make that shit disappear, and I mean, I'm just being honest here. This is what goes down.
Yeah, I think it's definitely specific to a specific type of restaurant, but there's some places where it's like, the seafold is your friend for hiding all your mistakes. You throw something in the compost, and like to this day, even if I'm like just throwing away scrap that like we can't use for whatever, I still instinctively like throw a couple. Yeah, because I'm in my head like Richard Reddington's gonna pull like the green onion butts out of the compost. Be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Which now, as a chef, I'm like, no one has ever. Turned their life. Yeah, no one has ever turned their restaurant empire around from like the brink of failure by like being tighter on green onions.
Right.
No amount of green onions will make or break your restaurant. I'm sorry. I understand respect to a product, but like this is my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Is when someone comes by and is like, "Your carrot, what the fuck is this?" And you're like, you want to try and make your money on carrots? That's fine, but that's not how you're making money. Maybe don't buy a $50,000 wine cooler and then come at me about carrots. All right, that's not how we're gonna turn this restaurant around. Okay,
yeah. They're like, it's all because of you that this restaurant is failing.
It's like for Mere Paw, my guy, really?
Not really.
Like, for my chive butts that I 86.
Yeah, exactly.
79 cents a bunch chive butts.
Like, everybody knows you don't use that side of the chive.
Yeah,
that's that
You're
other
telling
side
me
of the
to
rubber
throw this
band.
away. Yeah, come like, through and pick through my little 9 can with your chives.
Produce store already tells you what part to throw out.
Yeah. And it's not even that I'm being wasteful, but like I just don't get the hassling people about like that type of stuff when it's like on the basis of money, on the basis of respecting a product, like treat the product nicely. Don't fucking use half of it and throw it away. But don't come at me like it's a money thing. It's a respect thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think with things like that, you can use them for like, dry them and use it for kindling.
Totally.
Stock.
Yeah. All that stuff is important. There's definitely stuff that you can do.
Yeah, 100%.
All of that. I mean, like creative.
Ferments.
Yeah, ask Andy DeBrava, right?
You
got a piece of something. Yeah.
Seriously, the most ingenious chef that has ever lived, I think, Andy Dubrava, and we are only beginning to scratch the surface on his.
Imagine how empty that staff meal box is. You know, if everything, how hard it is to make staff meal there, right?
Yeah, right. You're like, hey,
this guy's
chef,
using all the trim
Chef
for everything.
Andy,
Yeah,
here is staff meal. That is trash. And you're like, oh no.
No, not even like that. I mean, like this guy uses everything of everything, every leftover pickling liquid. It's like, chef, can I use a quart of this for staff dressing? Nah, man, I'm going to turn this into a.
He's like, we collected some rainwater last night and we fermented your vegetables in rainwater. Jesus partook in the preparation of this dish by sharing rainwater with us.
The staff meal is blessed.
Rustic Canyon.
Yeah, I know. That needs to be
a fantasy restaurant.
That needs to be like a button you hit. You know how like some
podcast.
Yeah, it's like that's
like,
your.
Oh no,
Rustic Canyon.
Rustic Canyon. Trying to have Jeremy Fox on here, but I don't think he wants to be.
You got to give him you got to give him the notes ahead of time.
I got to give him the nudge.
Yeah,
I gotta be like, hey,
you got to write. You got to contact his publicist,
Chef Jeremy Fox. I'd love to have you on Sucio Talk. Spencer Horovitz agrees.
We can talk matzo ball soup.
Yeah, there you go. He's last time I saw him, I went to Birdie G's. He was working the pass.
Yeah,
this was like 2021, I think.
I like to call him my grand chef because he's the chef of one of my chefs. Like he's like the grandfather chef.
Dude, there is straight lineage.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I wanna build a family tree because
that would be crazy.
I feel like
you can see.
I feel like if you did that, you could trace the lineage back to who actually learned from Escoffier.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
Like imagine tracing that lineage all the way to now, all the chefs that work for this guy, that work for this guy.
There's like a gap in between.
Yeah, and find out where the gaps are.
Yeah.
What happened during those years.
Yeah.
Because that's where I think we're at right now. There's a gap right now. Of like
there's like a big
talent. Like if you see like I think the last frontier of like chefs, especially in the Bay Area here, are like, Kostowski's, Keller's is on another league of his own, but like those guys, and then there's like the new school of dudes, Barzilay and like all those dudes. And then there's this, then there's nothing.
Well,
then there's us.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not at a restaurant. I know a lot of kids that are 32 years old that spent a lot of time at great restaurants that are not chefs of restaurants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There was a huge,
and like you're literally starting it again.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's like a 4 to 5 year kind of like fall off where everyone was being CDCs and not their own chef.
That's like the joke when they say it like, oh, it looks like the handsome gene skipped a generation.
Like exactly. No, I'm serious. Yeah. So, when I look at like who is this show for, it's like for the 18-year-olds.
Yeah,
that are
young cooks
starting now.
This show was really inspiring to listen to when I was first making the jump to a more substantial position in the kitchen, just because it was like really exciting to track people's progress, like how you decide to take what jobs. I feel like I have extreme oftentimes difficulty. I feel like every time, and I'm very fortunate this has happened, but the past couple jobs I've had, when I'm looking to make the jump, I always have one or two options of things I'm thinking about, right? And I always play like, okay, shoulda, woulda, coulda, or like what would have happened if I did this or that. So it's just really helpful to hear how, the chef from this restaurant made the jump, or how, Andy DeBrava decided to make the jump to California, and how different, hearing those stories, the minute details of like, okay, how they decided, I think is very helpful, because sometimes a lot of chefs don't really talk about that. They're just like, and then I worked hard and became the chef, like,
or their struggles.
Or the struggles, like,
or like, hey, what's that time that you cried in your car on the way home and you thought that you'd never cook again in your life?
Yeah, I think those are,
we've all had that moment.
I'll talk. Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
I'm getting to all that, chef. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So Chili's.
Yeah. How long did you work there all together?
Like a year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay.
And this is while going to school. And then I was like, I think I'm ready for the jump.
Service.
Yeah, I was just like ready for the next thing. I was coming to the end of my schooling a little bit. So I went and got a job at. So Nordstrom has like a bistro, right? And it's actually a really great restaurant. Like they make a lot of stuff fresh.
Nordstrom has a bistro?
Yeah, on the top floor, they have like a French style, a French onion soup, sandwiches, a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
Like the turkey is roasted in house. Shit they don't need to do. Like who's roasting turkey for a sandwich? You know, like especially in a place like that.
Very
you know,
true.
Very much like a scratch.
That's what I ask myself all the time when I go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
Who roasted all of this turkey?
Yeah, someone did.
Because you know that someone did it.
Yeah.
One of those factories just smell like roasted turkey.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, you can't get rid of the smell.
It just haunts you.
It's like when you're on fish station.
Yeah, you look in a mirror and like you're the fish.
That's a real test for if you're with a woman while you're on a fish station.
Yeah.
At a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know she loves you if she stays.
Oh yeah, Gina's told me she's like, I'll come in for a kiss after service or whatever, and she'd be like, I love you. You smell like fish.
Yeah, you smell like caviar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a luxurious thing to smell like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd honestly rather smell like that, though. I've been told I smell like French fries, and I'm like, damn
that's
it.
the worst.
Like,
man.
I don't want to smell like French
fries.
That's
dehumanizing.
I'd rather smell like fucking salmon than French fries.
I used to get so self-conscious about the smell of like fried grease because my stepmom is Romanian and she makes these fucking French fries that are like, she makes these French fries and they objectively break every rule of French fry cookery I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And they're fucking amazing.
Okay.
She cuts them irregularly. She fries them. She starts them in like warm oil and then fries them. She brings the oil up with the French fries in them.
Okay.
And like they're cut in irregular pieces. The pot she uses is from Romania. It's like this wobbly ass pot with like a handle that's meant to be hung over a fire. So she put it on like our little apartment, like electric stove. Crazy unsafe, you know, like this shit was so wobbly and they're the fucking best French fries I've ever had. Right. But I would always feel self-conscious about going to school the next day and smelling like French fries before I even started cooking.
Yeah.
Like fried grease, you know? And then I realized this is what I've always smelled like. This is my birthright. Yeah, exactly.
My aroma. Shout out to grandma.
Yeah, right.
I think that there's something to be said about when you cook with no rules, fearlessly, when you have nothing holding you back.
No preconception about what's right,
it's like
what's
your
wrong.
meal may be ugly.
Yeah.
But it's going to taste amazing, you know, if like you use the right amount of salt or whatever, like it'll be good.
That's something I think what really drives me to the food I've eaten as a kid from my parents is like there's no one telling them in their ear like, chef, your fucking chives look like shit.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Like, it's not how you sear meat.
Yeah.
There's none of that going on in their heads when they cook.
Yeah.
And it really allows for delicious food. And I think that like we miss that sometimes because we're so used to cooking. Where I was talking to you about this earlier, like we're so used to trying to impress ourselves when we cook. Like that's always obviously
like it's about us.
Harshest critic.
It's like
I'm not gonna give myself credit unless this is fucking perfect. Like I'll go and like line up a picture for Instagram and I'm like, let me turn the camera this way. I don't want someone to be like, that wasn't seared properly, or like I could sear that fucking scallop better. Blah, 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 blah. Like all that shit is nowhere in the realm of like home cooks.
Yeah.
And I kind of like miss that type of cooking, you know, because once you have the skill, it's easier to forget all that shit and make, you know, delicious food plus all of your training.
That's that's why I love Korean food because they employ the use of broth seasonings, things that you would normally like in French cooking. You'd be like, you're using bouillon cubes.
Oh yeah,
like you know what I mean. And
I was talking to my friend about this too.
Yeah,
like how
so you have more of a range, and you can make shit taste fucking delicious.
Yeah,
and break the rules.
Like no one's making their own oyster sauce in a Chinese kitchen.
Exactly.
No one makes their own fucking hoisin.
And you don't need to.
Brandon Jew makes hoisin at Mr. Jew's, and it's really fucking good. But it's not part of the normal sauces that you make. Those are like base sauces. So that culture of like using potentially pre-made ingredients I fucking love that. Like, you know, really good pho has the chicken bouillon in it. Well, in my opinion, I'm not like an expert on pho, but and my friends have said that their moms will make pho and use the bouillon packet in additional to like spending 15 hours making, you know, a beautiful stock.
Or crispy chicken wings. Fry your wings, put Knorr powder on them.
Hell yeah. Yeah, the chicken powder is the secret, my home secret.
So it's like, it tastes delicious.
Salt,
like,
sugar,
don't
and chicken
yourself,
powder. White pepper is like the secret to my fucking family meal bouquet.
I grew up, you know, eating Puerto Rican food, and most of the ingredients is sazon, which is basically MSG with red color.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And adobo, and it's like, for a long time,
MSG
I was
with yellow
like,
color.
let me get away from these things, and let me get away from it. And it's like, why?
don't you want to make it taste like your mom's
don't you want to taste like my mom's food? And this is how I this is how they do it.
I feel like shit. I got yelled at all night.
Exactly.
I want my mom's food, and this is how I do it.
So
I'm not going to do it.
I've definitely from the personal chefing aspect of things.
Yeah.
That's where I learned to just be like, it's okay to use a bouillon cube sometimes. It's okay to use
There's context for everything.
Yeah.
Am I going to do that? Am I going to use that for a tasting menu, or I'm charging?
No, exactly. When you're charging the money for it, you're going to make your own stock. And
if conceptually, if you're going for a dish that like you want this to taste like your mom's, blah 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 blah, in a small plating, then you put a fuck ton of caviar on it.
Yeah.
Then conceptually, I guess that could make sense. But it's context. It's all about context.
Yeah.
Removing that judgment.
It's making me a better
conversation.
cook.
Oh hell yeah!
Because you don't have the judging chef in your brain
like
telling you don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fuck off.
Yeah,
I do what I want.
Yeah,
and and those are the chefs that ultimately get fantastic.
Yeah,
because they're fearless.
Yeah, breaking
they
rules.
Make mistakes. They fuck up their dishes. Their food sometimes tastes like shit, and they fucking fix it and they work on it. And I think sometimes in kitchens too, and I noticed as a cook when you were talking about ideas, sometimes you share your ideas and the other chefs are like, oh, well, you should change this and you should change that.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's this whole different dish that you don't even feel passionate about anymore because it's not your idea.
Are we running this? I don't care.
Yeah. So it's just like, don't listen to fucking anybody. Do it your own way. Figure it out. And, not everyone is not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like every restaurant is not for everyone.
Yeah.
As much as like, even at a Michelin star restaurant, 3 Michelin star restaurant like Meadowood, you had people that didn't like their meals sometimes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's it's the recovery too. Honestly, a lot of times what saves that is the service element. Great hospitality is what saves that. But I think that ADD. Here we go. I think that especially with the restaurants now that are that I was speaking about earlier, like people are fucking breaking those rules all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not fucking use chicken powder? Like it's fucking great.
Yeah.
Why
not buy the fried garlic instead of make it?
Yo,
are you really gonna
if you ever
waste
cook
someone's
for your
time?
friends, don't fry garlic at home. Okay.
Yeah.
Just fucking
yeah.
The one from the Asian supermarket is way better than you
for sure.
Okay. Don't pretend like you can fry shallots better than that package one.
Do you imagine that company though?
What it smells like, or what?
Yeah, what it smells like, what it entails.
What do they do with that oil, man? Why do I not see an oil bottle of flavored shallot oil?
They probably
right
sell
next
it to Kewpie.
Yeah, right. That's a secret ingredient.
Yeah, maybe that's why it tastes so damn good. It's all the roasted garlic and shit. From the fried.
Yeah, I learned from cooking with my girlfriend actually, about how to ask for people's opinions about the food you make. Because a lot of times when like I'll put up a dish for my colleagues or other chefs and stuff like that, what I want to say is, here's this dish I'm working on. Tell me what you like. Don't tell me what you don't like.
Right.
You have to be like, okay, look, here's this dish. I think it's 100% of the way. Just taste it. Or, which I think is more helpful, is here's this dish. I'm looking for feedback. But communicating that beforehand, I think is really helpful. Because then you don't get butthurt when someone's like, when you bring a completed dish to someone and someone's like, I think it needs more acid in the vinaigrette. Yeah. I feel like that level of communication when we're cooking for like other cooks or your chefs is really important. Because then there's not like that scenario where like, well, I thought this dish was done. But
there's there's chefs that have different palates. Like there's chefs that like vinegar.
Yeah.
And there's chefs that like sweet, and there's chefs that like salt.
Yeah.
So if you play to any one of those flavors,
that's
flavors,
my favorite thing about being in that phase when you're cooking for your let's say you're a sous chef and you're putting a dish on the menu.
Yeah.
Understanding your chef's palate, that always to me felt like the cheat codes for like, okay, I know chef likes this. This is what I'm gonna put on this dish to get this on the menu.
Yeah.
Like knowing it's almost like evil because you're like, you should just cook from your heart and make delicious food.
But I'm gonna put love and joy on this because chef's gonna like it.
Because chef's gonna fucking
and he's gonna be like, you hit me with the love and joy right now, bro. It's on the menu, man. I don't care what they say. That's how it rolls.
Yeah. So bistro. Yeah, right? I forget what it's called. It's something bistro, Nordstrom bistro. And that's kind of like where I started reading Anthony Bourdain, and all the cooks were just a little bit more. Yeah, the cooks wanted to be there. They weren't like supporting a family and had a lunch shift. These were kids who like, still very low level, for a lot of the cooks of professionalism, and then a lot of baller line cooks and like me and my buddy. But that's when I first started reading food media and was like doing all this homework on the side and like getting interested on Instagram and like trying to go out and eat more. And that's when I first read Anthony Bourdain, and it was like a game changer.
Life changing.
Yeah, and like honestly, to a lot of people, it sounds really trite to say that, like, but he still to this day, like on his birthday that was recently, I still like I try not to be on social media or whatever, just because it's like hard to see that. Like I never really accepted that he kind of like he's dead. And because, everyone's like, oh, I read Anthony Bourdain, but like he really, a lot of his writing pushed me in a direction for good and for bad. There's a lot of like traits that I had to get out of myself from reading his books. A lot of like, toxic masculinity and like this bro culture in restaurants. Like a lot of that shit didn't really serve me because I wasn't like a bro in the restaurant. I was like new and didn't really know how to cut chives. So like that's a terrible attitude to have when you're like just learning. If you're a baller line cook, yeah, of course, but like I kind of sucked when I started. I wasn't like a child prodigy. So like that attitude was actually a little hurtful, but understanding that there was this world for people like me who never really fit in was so important. That's one of the reasons really, everyone says like, oh, it's like a pirate ship and da da da, but really to feel accepted by people who didn't really care what you did in your personal life was one of the reasons why I really started in the kitchen. And that was a big Anthony Bourdain thing for me.
So it's a no judgment zone.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's like a melting pot, of all these different people.
And I feel like you can talk about the deepest, darkest parts of humanity in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like
fuck yeah.
Things that drive you to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
That make you sin or whatever you want
just
to call
being
it.
in, around people from different backgrounds and like who have different life experiences, and a lot of people, a lot of drugs and alcohol. It, not for those reasons, but it just felt good to be accepted. Accepted by, it was like an acceptance by omission. Like you're in, doesn't really matter. We're not really accepting you. You're in, you're part of this group. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like everyone's like, hey, what's your story? Like, oh, that's cool. Everyone's like, we don't care what your background is. Doesn't matter. None of that shit matters, So I worked there, and that was a great experience, fucking super busy. And then all this time I was planning on getting my bachelor's in restaurant management, which is something that like my aunt on my dad's side is a lawyer. My uncle on my dad's side is a doctor. My dad is just a jewelry salesman, not just like but he had never like experienced that level of wealth that his siblings had.
Right.
We were, they split, and bankruptcy is a big fucking hole. Debt is a really big fucking hole to get out of. And when I was a kid, we never really scraped out of it. We were kind of like lower middle class, which I still experienced a lot of privilege just being the white heterosexual male that I was like as a kid. Still given a lot more chances than a lot of people, but still we still had nights that we were kind of scraping. And my mom would make she would make this dish called we were walking through an Albertsons, and someone like handed her a little leaflet, and it had a recipe for this like rice casserole thing. And me and my brother fucking ate this shit up. We fucking loved it. And it was rice with ground beef on top, shredded cheddar, and then mustard and ketchup on top.
Oh, okay.
And you fucking bake it.
Yeah.
And we fucking loved it. And
call
she
it
would make it.
assistant.
Yeah, right. The assistant to the general hamburger.
Hamburger executive assistant.
Yeah.
There you go.
So she would make that all the time, and then I realized like, Mom, did you make that because we loved it? She's like, no, it was fucking cheap. Why do you think I made it?
Yeah.
Or she would make this orzo
dish.
It's
got all the food groups: tomatoes, vegetables.
Yeah, there you go.
Mustard, seeds,
meat. Yeah.
Desserts.
Carbohydrates.
Yeah, it's got everything.
Yeah.
This is trying to keep you alive.
So she, my dad's side of the family basically said, if you want to do this fucking cooking thing, like, you gotta get a degree in something.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'll get a culinary arts degree. And they're like, haha, no, get a business degree. And for a long time, I would fight them on that. And then I was like, they made the point that like, God forbid you fucking lose an arm in a Hobart, you can like manage a restaurant, like that was the thought of like, it wasn't like, hey, what if like, all these things. It was like, what if you endure extreme physical injury and you still have to work in the restaurant industry? That's why you need a bachelor's in restaurant management. And that to this day, I'm like, if I ever lose a hand, I can go manage a hotel and I'll be a fucking badass.
If you lose your arm in the Hobart, shout out to all of those people who have a backup. Hobart.
Yeah, I know. It happens.
Thankfully, I don't know anybody.
I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure that there's a.
It's probably lower than we think.
Yeah. Right. But still happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, be careful. Better unplug that machine before you clean it.
Damn right, dude. Especially those ones that are on the ground.
Yeah. That are like, especially for a tall person.
Yeah, that's bad news bears.
So I went to this school called Cal Poly Pomona, which is the sister school of Cal Poly SLO.
Okay.
And they are known for engineering primarily. It's a big engineering school. But up the hill, they have this little college that focuses on hospitality management degrees. So restaurants, hotels, events, that type of thing, different degrees in that.
Right.
And that's really, so I moved there. And that's where I learned a lot about entrepreneurship, accounting, math and English, or not necessarily English, but like math related to the hospitality industry, like food cost, all that stuff, all of those things that like will be so important when it comes to opening up a business down the line. Yeah. That's where I learned all of that, so that was really helpful, just to have the business sense, when it comes time to get a loan. If a loan officer sees that I have a bachelor's in restaurant management, they're going to be a little bit more likely to, believe in my concept and, so that was like just a really helpful experience, like really eye-opening, because the school was ranked like 3rd in the country for hospitality. Obviously, if, so it was Cornell, UNLV, and then Cal Poly Pomona for the business side, the restaurant management side. And obviously if Cornell opens, has an archery college, that's going to be fucking the best archery college in the country. You know what I'm saying? Like they just have the funding behind it. UNLV was 2nd because of all the industry funding from all the hotels. Like they dump money into that program because they want people to go to school there and then cook in UNLV.
Harvesting talent.
And then because Disneyland was so close to Pomona, Disneyland and like Disney in general spent a lot of money on the school and like
suck you up into the Disneyland.
into the cult of Disney.
The abyss.
They're watching.
Yeah.
They're fucking listening.
They're probably here right now.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so it was great school. I just learned really what it meant to be a business owner, entrepreneurship. It was really great to do research on the hospitality industry and restaurant industry. Like I remember writing papers about like postmodernism in the dining scene and like, okay, if you're going to try this marketing technique in the restaurant, you have to prove it with a scholarly paper about what diners like or don't like. So it was just a really interesting experience. I functionally have used almost zero of it, but I mean, it helps to know how to do food cost and food cost analysis and menu analysis and all that stuff is very helpful.
Yeah.
And like knowing hustle and like how to be light on your feet and know how to communicate, all that stuff, professionalism,
got to
communicate, that all stuff is great. But I haven't, I didn't get out of school and immediately start getting a loan. So I didn't really use it. I got out of school and was like a line cook, so the program was great. Worked with I still have a lot of friends to this day who are in the industry, which is like having friends that are in the industry for that amount of time. I feel like is not really a thing that happens. Like I know a lot of your friends or my friends now, a lot of them don't cook anymore, people I know. So having these core friends who took this program all still cooking is actually like pretty cool. And I think it's a testament to the program at Cal Poly Pomona. So,
right. I'm grateful in my group of friends from college. Most of them are like chefs somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
And like
was that from Johnson and Wales or from
Johnson and Wales and like, Charlie Apple, Tyler Vorse, Sean O'Hara, all worked at 3 Michelin star restaurants. Like
what a fucking squad.
Yeah. Like the guys that I was hanging out with, worked at some of the greatest restaurants in the world. And now have their own restaurants or, work in food in some manner or bosses. Yeah. So I was really fortunate to be in that group because I don't think I would have sort of scratched the surface into what cooking could be if I wasn't around those people. I don't fucking know.
All those people at the time that I was working with, like my homie Josh Yap, he is now, he was working at Bennu and like in situ for a long time. My homie Adam Dong is one of the chefs at a restaurant in DC that's doing like this incredible like food, Levantine cooking, so like food from Palestine and Israel.
Right.
And it's just like incredible, beautiful food. I think the Albi is the name of the restaurant.
Oh yeah, they just got a Michelin star.
Yeah, fucking
DC.
Dude, it's one of the restaurants I want to visit so badly on the East Coast because the food is just so familiar to me and just looks amazing.
That's the same kind of food that Mo Mufaraj wants to do.
Yeah, I fucking love it. Like refined, but still,
Exactly.
There's
a thing to be said about like Puerto Rican food that you walk in and it's just like casual fried food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like what Olvera did for tacos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're just showing it in a different light and showing that it doesn't have to just be a plate of rice and beans.
Well, I think people putting a quality marker on a single dish is really a stupid idea.
Yeah.
I think that like how you treat the ingredient, how you treat your staff that makes the food, where you're sourcing the ingredient, what the setting is, what went into the building to provide that meal, all those things are important context for the dish. So just saying that, like, I don't really see like chow fun as a fine dining course. Like, why would you ever, or like a chow mein or fried rice, or I don't see that as fine. Like it's all the integral pieces that go to making that dish important. So it's not just that.
I would love to have a tasting menu of Chinese food,
dude. Right?
I would 100% be on board to do a tasting menu like that, where it's like,
so there's a restaurant called Empress by Boone, I think it's called, that just opened in Chinatown. Gina and I went there.
Empress by Boone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Incredible restaurant, overlooks the city, downtown Chinatown. It's like beautiful Cantonese cooking. I think it's Cantonese, but it's incredible. Like, we had a tasting menu basically, and it was so delicious. I was really into it because I think that like it was like Chinese fine dining essentially. It's really nice because with Mr. Jews, it's Chinese American food, and it's at that like Progress, State Bird, Rich Table level where it's like, if it wasn't in San Francisco, it would be extreme fine dining anywhere else. We're like, oh my God, this is the hottest restaurant in town. Yeah. But it's like casual here,
That's a cool dynamic that you just said. Like, in some places, a restaurant would be considered fine dining, and in other places, no, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, like people consider casual food like the Progress, eating at the bar at Progress, but like, in Encino, there's really nothing like that. There's like hummus bars and stuff like that. If we had a restaurant like that, we had like the Buggy Whip, Brandywine restaurant, which was like this old school jazz like steakhouse spot. Like those were the nice restaurants, or like the PF Chang's. But yeah, so that was the whole thought behind going to college. And then they had a way. There was a program at CIA where if you already had your bachelor's in restaurant management and at least 6 months of professional cooking experience, you could go and take just 9 months of culinary classes in Napa. So that was always on the table as something I was working towards. At the CIA, yeah. Okay. So basically, if you had your bachelor's already, they don't do this anymore. Now it's like you have to get a 4-year degree from the CIA. But I was always skeptical of learning English and math from a chef anyways. Like I would want to learn just cooking. Like, why would I want Chef Tom or, Chef Daniel or whoever, reading me, like making me do a book report on like on like Little Women or something. I didn't feel like that was a useful expenditure of my money at the point.
That's awesome.
But during my studies at Cal Poly Pomona, I was working 2 days a week at the Gorbals, which is Elon Hall's restaurant in LA.
What's it like working for Elon Hall?
Great, very creative.
Before or after Top Chef?
Before. No, after. This is the restaurant that he opened with the money from Top Chef.
Oh, got you.
It was just
where did he work before? I don't really know his
Casamono,
history.
I think.
Okay.
I think it was Casamono. It was like Spanish food. They're like, okay, let's name it Casamono.
Shout out to Elon
Hopefully
Hall,
no
House
one
of
speaks
Monkey,
Spanish and
Casamono.
can translate this. All right, just don't worry about it. No one's gonna. They're never gonna know.
No one's gonna know.
They're never gonna know
what it means.
So he was super creative chef. Honestly, like the food he was doing back then in LA at the time, the big players were like Animal, Melise, Red Medicine, all those spots.
Right.
Eloy would tell me he would go and eat at red medicine all the
Shout
time.
out to
with him
Eloy
and,
Perez out there
Man.
on the Big Island. Is that where he lives?
Yeah, dude, living the life out there.
Shout out to you. I see all your pictures on the beach. I'm gonna go crash on his couch one of these days.
He's probably got a nice couch too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Eloy always had nice couches.
Fuck, man. Miss that guy.
Yeah, miss that guy for
Yeah.
sure. Eloy, if you hear this, come out here.
Yeah, please.
Come visit. You got a couch to stay on.
Right?
Stay in the booth.
So the food back then was just very much seems so obvious now, but like the stuff that they were doing seemed really hard to communicate. It was very globalized, kind of like street food, small plates,
Right.
a lot of mismatched china, silverware, stuff like that. In the dining room, a lot of weird kooky shit on the walls, a lot of communal tables, which back in the day, now it's like an eye roll when you think about it. But back in like 2000, what would have been 14 or 15? No, 2015. That shit was like cutting edge, you know, like restaurants like Animal were really hot back then.
It's like now the thing is industrial ceilings and those lights that
Loud
come
ass,
down the strings.
Yeah, the string lights, yeah.
So
Loud
like
ass
wrapped around the
restaurants.
bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I worked there. He was just a really creative chef. Like he did crazy shit. Like he would do these bacon wrapped matzo balls.
Bacon wrapped matzo balls.
Yeah, man, they're fucking good.
Hey, yo.
Wild.
Is that like?
Oh, it's definitely not kosher, but everyone's like, oh, is it? If you're religious, you eat kosher. But if you're not, you're just a Jew.
Yeah, put some respect on it. You're
Yeah.
just a Jew, okay?
Jewish.
Just a Jew.
Yeah, I'm culturally Jewish. You know, I grew up eating all the food. I got bar mitzvahed. You know, I would call Bubby and tell her happy. You know. I hope you had a
Bubby?
fast. My grandma.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's happy called?
So
are they both your bubbies?
I guess Saba. I
Saba.
don't know. So it's Yiddish. There's Jews that speak Yiddish.
Right.
There's Jews that speak Hebrew. Right.
Okay.
Or just people who speak Yiddish and people who speak Hebrew.
Mhm.
My grandmother, who is Polish and Russian, she would speak Yiddish. So she would always say, like, you know, what is this fakakta thing you got on your face and all that type of stuff. You know, you're being a schmendrick.
A schmendrick.
Yeah.
Yo,
Getting roasted by your grandma in another language is the fucking prime.
Don't be a fucking schmendrick.
Yeah, don't be a fucking schmendrick. Don't be a schmuck. That's all I'm gonna say.
Jimmy Schmendrick. Fucking so.
Gorbals.
You decided to leave. Why?
Well, I was only working there 2 days a week, and
what stations?
I was
where
working
they
like
filmed Knife Fight. No.
Yeah, I was there. So that's how I got the job there. My uncle was in a production company. He was filming a promo for Knife Fight, and he was like, "Hey,
I wonder why that show didn't make it for long.
It was too early.
Too early,
no
right?
There wasn't like no one really cared about it back then. If that was now, people were like, yo, this is the fucking crazy.
Yeah, they
late
should
at
bring
night,
it back.
people were fucking drinking. It was all fucking fun.
Yeah,
it was so
wild.
much less ego than Top Chef and like less, so
yeah,
great
I feel
concept.
Like Top Chef has balanced
Please bring it
out,
back.
Though.
Yeah, it has. It has. It's just gone through. It's moved. Through so many different.
It's grown so many years now. It's put so many new talented chefs on the
yeah,
map.
It's weird to know so many chefs who have been on it too.
It's
like,
done a lot of shit for us.
Brandon Rosen was my chef at Red.
Oh, that's right, Brendan Rosen.
Yeah.
I love his title on the show was Executive Private Chef. I thought that was funny. I'm like, who are you leading a team of 2?
I mean, you'd be surprised, dude. I know a little bit about his operation. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like,
what's he doing now?
He's working for a very affluent client, and he's basically the chef of the operation. So the client has a bunch of different houses and different locations.
So he is an actual executive
he's like
private
he
chef.
hires travel chef. One of my homies is a travel chef for this client. My homie Tommy, who I worked with at Red, Thomas Mayette.
I'm also a travel chef.
Yeah.
Anybody need any dinners anywhere in the world? I cook them.
Come at your boy.
I cooks them.
Be ready.
Anywhere. How many people? Doesn't matter. One man army.
One man army.
One dream. One team. Me.
One team. One dream. Dinner's at 7.
Team.
Probably 7:45.
7:45, guys.
Wait, you guys went up? It's 20 people now?
Yeah, I'm going to need you guys to hold back the wedding reception. That's something that Chef Kat told me. She said,
where's the nearest restaurant supply store?
Never fuck anyone's wedding up.
Yeah,
and those words
do weddings.
Just ring so true to me.
Unless you're confident you can fucking do it, which you did.
Best
Congratulations. Yeah, that amazing.
24 people by myself.
Flawless victory.
In
a suit, right?
Yeah,
in a fucking suit.
Yeah. Basically, I was
Come on,
like,
dude.
dress up in the suit.
Yeah.
Go cook some shit. come fucking, dress up in my fucking chef coat, take some pictures.
Yeah,
it was
right?
like I brought the cameras over there. I filmed the event.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot
Dude,
of shit.
What a cool way to like celebrate your friend.
Yeah, man, I'm super proud of him. Shout out to Tyler Vorse and Latoya Vorse.
Yeah, congratulations to them.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
They just got married. It was a dope ceremony.
That looked beautiful.
I got to see his mom, his parents. I haven't seen them in years.
Wow.
I met Latoya's parents, and they're fucking awesome. Her whole family's dope.
Yeah.
So it was cool to feed everyone and them kind of see a preview into our world.
Yeah,
because whenever you cater something for your family, they're just like, "Oh my god,
like, this is what goes into
yeah."
that?
They're like, "Damn, you're good."
Yeah,
and like finally now, after so much time of being disrespected by my family for being a lowly cook, they're just
roasted,
like, "Yeah, I never seen you cook before." This tastes like shit. They never said that.
Yeah,
or having that confidence to even cook in front of your family.
Yeah,
because I know for a long time, in the beginning years, I was like, "No, I don't cook for my family."
Really?
I was very self-conscious.
Oh yeah, I should have been.
About my skills.
Because honestly,
yeah, I was like, I never tried anything new in front of them or nothing, because I was always afraid of letting them down. Like when you go to college for cooking, you have this feeling like when you graduate that you should be a chef already.
Yeah,
and that just doesn't happen. It didn't happen till 10 years
I
after
think
the
that,
fact.
I think that's the most harmful notion of going to culinary school.
Yeah.
Is the belief that you will be, once you leave culinary school, you're a chef.
A fully formed chef.
No, you're not. You just got like the cheat codes for a lot of exposure.
Right.
But you did not.
You have pan identification down.
Yeah, you're done. Like someone says, go to the walk-in and get me oregano.
Yeah.
You can see where the oregano is. You can.
If somebody says, "Hey chef, we overcooked all the steaks for this event. What do we do?"
Yeah.
You got to have a solution for that shit.
More sauce.
Yeah, more sauce. Cut it thin.
Yeah,
like we gotta fix this.
Yeah, pour more wine. So yeah, I was at the Gorbals.
So you left.
Yeah, so my uncle got me, helped me get my foot in the door. I basically was helping him do some. They were doing a promo for Knife Fight, and then I just brought my knot because he needed someone to like dress the tablescapes, to like do some, because they were gonna take videos. I was like, oh my nephew does cooking. He can like make the tables look interesting. So like I trust the chicken.
And Elan Hall was like, yeah.
No, he wasn't even there for this part. Like they were just like filming shit in the kitchen. Then I went up and I brought my knives with me and I'm like, hey chef, I want a stage here for the day.
Yeah.
Not cold call him. Didn't have anyone introduce me. I was like, chef, I want to work here for the day. So after like a 6 or 8 hour like photo shoot type thing, I went and staged at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Then he called me the next day. He's like, you want to work here? And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Yeah, I can only be here 2 days a week.
Yeah.
So I was driving from Pomona to LA, which is like a 45-minute drive. I'd go there at like 3, leave at like 2 o'clock in the morning because we'd go out, and hang out with the crew. Did that for 2 days a week.
To work with Elan Hall.
Yeah, and it was honestly a really I like great exposure, seeing all of the different techniques.
How many people in that kitchen?
It's pretty small, like 3 or 4, maybe. Yeah.
And anybody of note that's like doing shit now? Or?
My homie Zeke is a chef in LA. He's the guy who trained me on like the fry station. And then Raul does like this vegan ramen concept for Elan Hall, and they're fucking blowing up in LA.
Awesome. What's it called?
Oh shit. Oh man, what is it called?
Vegan ramen concept.
Yeah. Fuck. I wish I remembered the name.
It's all good. It's all good.
We'll circle back there.
Everyone's got internet out there.
Yeah, right? I know. There you go. That's half the battle.
Can't know it all.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But it's really fucking good. So it's crazy. They put like sunflower seed in the broth to make it like rich and stuff. Yeah, smart.
Like that. Like blend it in or just?
I think they blend it in. Yeah. I hope I'm not giving a secret away.
No, it's all good. I saw that in Mexico when I was down there. The chef there would make soups, and she would use seeds to thicken the soup.
Whoa.
Not necessarily even like blend them in, but then there was some other soups that
the porridge almost, or
the base was take a bunch of sunflower seeds, cook them in the water, and then blend it all, and then add the meat and the vegetables to it.
Whoa.
Yeah, like so she'd do some really cool shit like that.
What's the chef's name?
Her name was oh man, I'm forgetting.
Circle back to it.
Yeah, she was actually a shaman. She was.
Whoa.
We were at a retreat.
Okay,
we were
bury
smoking
the lead a little
toad
bit.
venom. Yeah. So she was.
Yeah.
the chef of the retreat, and she was a vegetarian chef. So cooking all that veg.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
Damn,
Atole. Every day was like fresh tortillas with like.
Oh, you were there for a couple days. Huh?
I was there for 7 days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were doing mushrooms, chanting to the gods.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just trying to find myself out there in the woods.
Dude.
Yeah.
How'd it go? Did you find yourself?
That went well.
Yeah. Think about you did that, and now you're here in a studio.
And now I have a studio for the podcast.
Chefs, isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Think about that. If you look at it like that, cause and effect.
Yeah.
That happened, and now you're here.
I mean, I willed the shit out of this studio.
Yeah.
And everything just worked out, and now it's here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like it because it's one of those moments where it's like, all right, David, you have a studio. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Are you going to seize the day?
Yeah.
Make podcasts?
Yeah.
Make, entertaining shit for our people? Or are you going to squander it and,
I don't see any of
so
that.
So the pressure is pressure's on for me, especially like just internally, that I know that I have to make this thing work. And nowadays you tell people like, oh yeah, I was starting a podcast, and everyone talks shit to you.
But fuck those people.
Podcast, whatever. It's like, fuck you, man. Like you don't know where I'm going. You don't know where I'm taking this. This is gonna be a worldwide show.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna be in all the households.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm gonna host James Beard.
I fucking hate that shit. Honestly, when someone's like sharing something that they're hyped about with you, and you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck those people.
Yeah. Then don't be happy for me. So I found that the best way to get away from that is not tell anybody what you're doing. And just slowly but surely, just like let it happen.
I talk too much to ever to keep that.
No, I mean I do too. Like whoever will listen will be like, "Hey, I got a podcast. These are my plans."
Yeah, here's the safe to
no one gives a shit.
Yeah,
you just gotta like. They give a shit when you do it. They give a shit when like people are paying attention to it. Yeah. And they're like, oh, like now I get it. So that was my goal. It's just like, all right, fine. Let me make this podcast undeniable to the point where no matter. Like, if you write a cookbook, you're a chef, you have to do Sucio talk. If you're opening a restaurant,
I feel like I need like an executive producer credit because I'm pumping you chefs now, baby. That's it.
For sure. You'll always have a credit here, baby.
Hell yeah.
You always be part of the family.
I love this. I just want people to be able to tell their story. Yeah, right. I want people to be able to tell their story like the ways that I heard chefs tell their story is really inspiring. Like,
and the way we heard it was in a kitchen, so it was real,
and it was doled out like they were secrets to the fucking manuscript.
It wasn't like right now, or when we were, coming up, stories were a thing. I feel like as the times are changing, some of the things that were done were wrong, so the stories aren't being told. Yeah. It's like we need to be honest about where we came from and what we thought was right or wrong 10 years ago.
True.
Because it changes.
Because there's a whole fucking industry out there that thought it was right.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit,
Exactly.
No one fucking batted an eye.
And we were all being pieces of shit. We didn't even know it.
I think that's my biggest issue with like this, Kenji Alt Lopez, did this whole story where he was like trying to take down Gordon Ramsay for Boiling Point, which if you guys haven't seen Boiling Point, like watch that video. It's just incredible. Like watching him expedite and cook and like throw pans at people and like Gordon
Boiling
Ramsay.
Points. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. It's insane.
He's like pulling people by their apron.
Like fucking.
He's like, hey, big boy.
Fires a guy for drinking water.
You're worried about your 25 quid a week, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, come here, you.
And like, I get it. You want to, that's not okay. You didn't run your kitchen like that. But if you really want to have that conversation, you need to be prepared for every chef that will go down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't have that conversation and just pick out one at a time. Have an open conversation with the industry. We stop behavior, and then we don't do that shit anymore, and we hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. But like picking one guy off at a time because there's video, or you collect enough disgruntled employees, or God forbid, like someone is open and honest enough and feels comfortable and safe sharing their story about what happened. Like, we can't just pick one person off at a time, because at the highest level in a lot of 3-star kitchens and in a lot of intense kitchens, that's the behavior that happened for a long amount of time. And there's people trying to change that and make it different, because, and that's my take on it. I think it's like, we're going to have the conversation, How do we keep the same amount of discipline and like make great cooks and chefs without that? Well, I think about this a lot too, because I personally have been the worst cook in a restaurant and the best cook in the restaurant.
Same.
I've been there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I've been on both sides. Like for me personally as a chef, I believe in coaching through accountability and compassion and like thinking, knowing that it's really important to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most important thing. You know, when it's right, it's right. And when it's wrong, it's wrong. Everyone knows where that line is, right? There's no gray area.
Right.
You know, every little piece, Costa would always say, like, every little piece of this game, what the dishwasher does, what this person does, it's all important. It's all the same. It's all level 10 important.
Right.
One thing isn't any less important than the other, you know,
exactly.
what the porter does. And I think that holding people accountable is really important. Intensity in a certain environment is important. Sometimes it brings out good behavior in certain people, right? Removing the emotion from that, I think, is the real
removing emotion.
Removing emotion.
That's how we do it, chef. We got to remove emotion.
And understanding that, like, the majority of your career, you spent your life dealing with stress via pressure cooker, right? And you explode, you apologize, and you go back. Things are tense, right? I had a lot of struggles as a kid with like anger management, and you know, dealing with my emotions. You know, going to therapy and stuff like that. Get in trouble with, you know, drugs and alcohol. You know, the police and shit like that. And it really opened my eye to how to deal with stress, and especially with aggravated stress, like when you're angry.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a lackluster skill in the majority of chefs I work for, understanding that, like, okay, this is what happens. Like, you are uncomfortable. You have held it in all day. You've seen the kid dropping the egg on the floor, made you mad, but you didn't say anything because you like feel bad when you yell, obviously. All those things lead up, and then service happens. Someone undercooks the quail, or like someone overcooks something, or whatever. Think people are human. These things happen, right? You explode and you freak out. That's a pattern. It happens every night at a lot of restaurants, you know? And I, you know, I'm not going to say I know how to fix that in people. I don't think anyone really knows how to fix that, but removing the emotionality from it, I think, is really important, but also at the same time, very hard, because people, it's like they come into the restaurant and they have your food. It's like you're cooking for them. You know, if you're the chef, that's all people ever remember. They don't know that the line cook. We would talk about this all the time. They don't know if the line cook, what the line cook's name was that fucked up the veal or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's the guy whose name is on the door.
You know, so
that's
obviously your stress and frustration is built into that. However, it's like, you know, the hardest part is controlling your emotions in that situation. You know, figuring out how to fix the problem, holding the person accountable, be like, look, this is unacceptable quality of work for this position. Okay. This is a warning. And, you know, maybe it's not something you're capable of doing, you know, all the same communication happens, but instead of like, you're a fucking piece of shit. Like I've never seen anyone cook so bad before. I don't understand why this is so hard for you. All that shit doesn't makes you feel shitty at the end of the night. Which are
things that I've heard before.
Yeah.
And things I'm
like
sure you've heard before.
When someone whispers in your ear, like, you know, like, you're the worst cook I've ever seen in my life, right? Like, that to me was always worse than the yelling. Because yelling, it's just, you can kind of tune it out, you get numb to it. But when someone's like, I worked at
trying to like mentally fuck you up.
Like, I worked in a sandwich shop. You've never worked in a restaurant like that? I knew better than you.
Yeah.
Like all little shit like that, you know, way worse. But
emotional torture, man.
Which is like, what does that do?
But then it becomes normal after a while. And then you sort of trick yourself into thinking we need this behavior in order to succeed.
That's how the restaurants run.
I need to lead with fear.
Which
you know?
I don't think is true.
No,
because
definitely
honestly, every cook I've ever worked with who grew up in that environment, right? They fucking add water to shit. They'll lie. They'll cover up mistakes. They'll be like, oh, this puree is made
just
today.
so they don't get in trouble.
Just so they get in trouble, which is like, that's not the good fucking food, you know? And honestly, like, if that puree isn't a green puree, no one fucking can tell that it was made yesterday and like, you bagged it. You don't need to fucking throw away a pint of your hard work for some shit they made literally yesterday that tastes exactly the same.
Yeah.
Just for the idea of like, that's manufacturing luxury by manufacturing stress.
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to manufacture the stress for people to value what they're doing there, right? So you do that by throwing shit away, right? I always joke that it's like, it's not what goes on the plate that's fine dining. It's what you throw away. It's what you don't put.
Right.
You know? Like, almost as a joke to, like, you know, when fucking homeboy from EMP is like, it's just like the Miles Davis quote. It's not the quotes. It's not the notes you play. It's the ones you don't play. Yeah, it's not the mise en place you put on the plate. It's the mise en place you throw away at the end of the night. That's fine dining, you know?
Yeah. It's like the fucking when you have to juice corn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like 6 cases because you wanted a pint of corn juice, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Like, motherfucker.
That's literally like, what's a 30 count, 6 cases? Like that's that many people that couldn't eat an ear of corn.
Yeah, right.
Because you wanted to make corn juice.
You took corn away from that many people.
Exactly.
Yeah, the elotero is like gonna fucking He's got one less case to sell.
And I'm probably gonna regret this, and I'll probably put corn juice on the menu at some point, and somebody will be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I mean, corn juice. It's a great,
it's great.
Great thing. Would make a great Bermonte for a corn pasta. I mean,
you know what I mean? What
do you got? I got a lot of ideas over here.
Hey, come on, private chef.
Yeah, exactly.
So Gorbals happened, left, great situation.
Shout out to Alon Hall.
Alon Hall, yeah. I still to this day will hit him up with questions or ask him shit like that.
That's great. That's a true mentor.
Yeah,
you can call him.
I don't know if I'd go as far like. We're not super close, but as a resource, if I ever Instagram message him, he always responds.
He responds.
Maybe
it's important.
In
there's
my head,
there's a lot of chefs that don't.
Oh, for sure. And maybe in my head, he does that with everyone. And I'm just thinking, it's because I work there. Maybe he's just a super nice guy. I don't know. I like to believe it's because I work there, and that's why.
It's definitely because you work.
Yeah.
And I think that chefs owe you that courtesy.
Oh, for sure.
Like when you go there and spend a good amount of time with someone and like. Put your all into something. I truly believe that chef is almost like indebted to you for the rest of your life. Like they should be there for you.
Yeah, it's like Dragonheart. You know?
Like don't if you don't
go down, they go down.
Exactly. If you don't want to make a lifelong commitment to being a mentor to someone, don't be a fucking chef.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I get it. You can't help everyone, but just the fact that like there's a lot of chefs out there who have cooks, chefs that work for them before.
Yeah.
A phone call to them out of nowhere means so much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of chefs that don't talk to their previous people that worked for them because of emotional shit that went down.
Yeah.
But
mad at you for leaving.
Yeah, it's like just call them back. Call them and talk to them. And I
well, some of those chefs, it's hard to develop that relationship with. They're just hard to talk to.
Yeah.
Some people are just like that. So I went to CIA. That was great. I was there for 9 months. Really great experience being in Napa Valley, just extreme level 10 exposure of everything. Yeah. Farmers market vegetables, chefs traveling from all over the country to come talk at CIA. But it was only 9 months worth of cooking.
Gorgeous
and
school.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wizarding school for sure. Hogwarts all the way. Hogwarts vibes.
Hogwarts,
literally. Yeah. But a little sad when you realize who actually built St. Helena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not wizards.
Exactly.
It was like in basically
it was a straight Chinatown.
It was Chinese immigrants who were not well received by they were like ran out of town.
No.
One of the most terrible things about St. Helena and Napa Valley. Like
100%.
We should talk more
and
about.
That's what's crazy is like you'll walk into places and it's like these fucking white people well-to-do shops, and it's like they'll have a small picture on the wall commemorating the Chinese. I'm like, is this a St. Helena I opened a business starter pack?
Yeah.
Like, do you actually give a fuck about these people, or is it just like,
did this come
the history of this town is very important? It's like. That's fine. Yes, it is.
History.
But fucking mean it when you're gonna,
Yeah. So good to
don't gimmick it.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there for 9 months. Great experience. And then, but honestly, I think culinary school is important for exposure. But on fish butchery day, I didn't get 15 fish to butcher. You get one, and then you have a practical. And that's how a lot of those classes went. I didn't really develop any strong skills while I was there. It was all exposure. And I think anyone who believes that they will develop those skills at culinary school, or at least the program that I did, I'm sure the longer programs, 2 years, you have more time, more ingredient, more time to fuck shit up, more time to do things well. But I didn't really get that from 9 months worth of cooking. It was more of just a resume bump, exposure, meeting people, having a network now, and exposure to Napa Valley, which would be my home for a couple years. After the program, I was talking to the owners or like the company that manages Rutherford Grill.
Right.
Which are you familiar with them? R&D
Kitchen.
Rutherford
Grill, R&D Kitchen.
Houston's.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a huge company,
that is
right?
a powerhouse company that churns out a lot of talent.
And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after school yet. I thought like, okay, let's get this actual business acumen figured out. Let's go the restaurateur route first by working for this company, seeing how they manage successful restaurants. But I spoke to some of my friends who had done the program, and they said the program was basically like it chewed up and ate a lot of people. Basically, they paid really well, but it's almost like working on a cruise ship where like they take your passport and you're not allowed to leave. Like they relocate you to like their restaurant in Denver. You don't have any friends in Denver. You spend 15, 16 hours managing this restaurant. You have no time for anything else. And then they move you to another location. So you're gaining experience, but also you have no life otherwise.
Right.
They remove you, so it kind of like indoctrinates you a little bit. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Like they were paying like $70K for managers back in like 2015, which was shmoney.
At that
that's
time,
good. That's good
sure.
fucking money for a manager in a restaurant. A manager at a restaurant? Are you fucking kidding me? And then the other decision I had, and this goes back to like my feeling of like whenever I've made these big life decisions about becoming a chef, I've always done them in 2s or 3s of like trying to weigh my options. I was at a bar in St. Helena called Anna's, and like every Thursday I'd go there and sing karaoke.
Yeah, shout out to Anna's.
Oh,
Thursday
man.
karaoke
Mike,
night was so much fun.
Thank you for everything. When I left Napa, Mike the bartender pulled me in the back and like he was like, he and I took a shot together.
Dude,
back
Mike the bartender.
Yo,
shout out to him.
Oh my God.
Just
fucking
the nicest
amazing
guy.
So fucking nice. Great attitude. But he pulled me into the back of the bar. I was like, hey man, I'm really going to miss you. Thank you so much for everything. Cause I would go there and tip 20% every time, no matter what.
Right.
I drink stuff like that. And I was like, does this mean I'm an alcoholic if the bartender is sad to see me go? Does this mean I've been at this bar too much? But I met, so I was there shooting pool one night and I met someone named Coleman Griffin.
Hey, Coleman.
Who, I talked to him about Meadowood and, I think it was him and Carl, they were playing pool.
Yeah.
And Carl fucking didn't want anything to do with me, understandably at the time. I was like, "Oh, you're a chef." That's so cool. Like, the restaurant. Carl's like, "I don't want any of that bullshit."
Shout out to Carl Alexander out there in New York. He said, "Fuck off, boy! Don't talk to me,
dude." Yeah, the fucking one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah,
Carl, biggest lemon twister, fucking shit talker I know in my life.
Oh, 100%.
So Coleman hooked me up. I told him, I was like, I'm interested in staging at the restaurant.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, cool. Here, let me put you in touch with Jessica Shelton.
Yeah, good on him, man.
Honestly, like,
he didn't need to do that at all.
He didn't need to. And and obviously too, like at that time in a lot of restaurants, there was this culture of like, if you had someone stage at the restaurant, they better be fucking good. They better not fuck anything up, you know?
Don't embarrass me
don't embarrass me
mentality.
Like, don't fuck this up for me.
Yeah.
Like what fucking Howard said.
Yeah, exactly.
So Coleman, introduced me to Jessica Shelton, was just like, send me your resume. And I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll send it in. And then I also was like, fuck that. I'm going to go up to the back door of the restaurant and drop off my resume.
Right.
Which I always identified with you because you did like the same thing. You just fucking showed up there and worked.
The old
and
Dave method.
But that's if you're persistent,
just
especially
show up.
if you're outclass. When I was feeling very outclassed, I was like, I'm gonna be undeniable.
That's how I get the ladies too. So outside their house, I just show up.
Show up.
That's
and,
right.
Flowers.
That's false.
Chocolates.
That's false.
So I basically showed up with my resume. I was all feeling all plucky. Just had dropped. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a job at a Michelin-starred restaurant. And pulling it back like a year before that, I was on a plane to San Francisco, and there was a video of Meadowood. It was like a small promotional, like, visit Meadowood in the Napa Valley, and like a promotional video. And then Costa was in the video, and there was a huge, just like a line. You know how they do like the conveyor belt for the events where they like plate the dishes? They were doing that in the video. And in my head, I was like, man, if I could just be a fly in the wall here, if I could just steal some corner of responsibility and just be a cog in that wheel, it would be so great to be there and be a part of this institution. So cut to a year later, I'm like, this is my chance. I'm going to do it. So I go and knock on the door. I drop off my resume with, it was Costa's office, which I didn't realize. So I dropped it off, and he had an office assistant there who wasn't Jessica Shelton, someone else. I forget what her name was, but
Nicole Smalls.
Maybe she had a Eastern European accent. I think she might have been Russian.
Crickets.
Yes.
Oh wait, was she sommelier?
No, not her.
Okay.
No, not her.
Not Victoria.
Not Victoria. No.
Okay. Never mind. All right. Anyway, moving on.
So I drop off my resume.
You walk in, and she's like, "What is your business here?"
It's essentially like that. I'm like, "Hi, I'd like to, here's my resume." Walk out the door feeling great, and then, I hear some footsteps outside of the restaurant, and then I'm walking with my back towards, and I turn around, and I hear Martina say, Spencer Horovitz?
Martina Costow.
Martina Costow.
Right.
Turn around and say, Spencer Horovitz? And I, boom, turn around. I'm like, oh, fuck. And then she's like, do you want to come in and talk for a second? And I was like, great.
Yeah.
So she brings me in. I'm like, great. She seems nice, amazing.
Yeah.
This is a great win for me. And then I come into the office and fucking Costow's sitting there in the chair like this. Let me do the Costow.
Give you Godfather vibes.
Let me give you the best Costow, guys. Kind of leaning back. So Spencer, you work for Alon Hall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I did. I feel like there was a microphone there for that to speak into. Yes, I did.
You work for Alon Hall.
You work for Alon Hall, huh? And then, no, you know what Martina said? She's like, oh, you work for Alon Hall. And then I was like, yes, I did. And then Costow sitting in the back of the chair, he's like, I got dated my wife for like 6 years or whatever the time was. And I was like, shit.
You're like, I'm not getting this job on
like,
account of dating history over here.
And then he's like, all right, well, I'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up. And then I staged there for like a month. I remember, and I was so fucking stressed out because like I was hanging like little note cards with personal aspirations on my wall, like pressure makes diamonds, and because I fucking knew I was in over my head. Like, I was like, I basically talked my way into this position.
Yeah,
like,
you did,
just
man.
on fucking on.
I will say,
vibes
man,
alone.
you came in, you staged for.
Do you remember
like
any of that?
3 days.
Yeah, straight. Yeah,
straight. And not only did you do that, you started at 6 a.m. with the morning crew, and then finished with us at night.
Oh, that's right.
That's
on
what
Deep
you
Clean
did.
too.
Yeah,
We
you
got out
worked.
there like
Yeah,
11:30
you worked doubles, and that Saturday,
for like 3 days straight.
You left it. You were undeniable.
Yeah,
you worked so hard that they were like, we have to give this guy a job because we can't sleep at night if we don't, because he's worked so hard for us. So
it was
shout
crazy.
out to you, man. You're one of the greatest stagiaires I've ever seen.
Shut up.
Yeah, man.
No way.
For sure.
Thank you. That means so much.
Man.
Honestly,
there's a lot of people that can't walk into those situations, make the best out of how they're being treated, let's be honest, and fucking plow ahead and get a position with the Yankees. I mean,
it was. That's what it felt like to me. What I eventually realized that like this is like a pickup game. You know, this is like, you know, you're shooting basketball and then like Steph Curry comes up and he's like, hey man, you want to play with us?
Yeah.
But every single game is the championship game.
Exactly. Every day is game 7.
It's game 7.
That's right.
You know, so it was one of the hardest and most rewarding experiences of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Working in that kitchen, working in the morning with Eloy and who was the guy who broke his back? And Horacio. Him and fucking Eloy in the morning were like fucking machines. It was so it was crazy.
Get so much stuff done.
Eloy would like run around the kitchen. They would run around, jog, like literally jog, and like he would send me to like be on break, and he would like eat a little power bar and like keep peeling asparagus like through his break. It was just so honestly, like I don't really.
He was one of the best cooks I've ever worked with.
Amazing,
Yeah,
so insane,
really good.
And like a fucking tyrant too, like whooped my ass like in the best way possible. Like,
he
got
roasted
me in
your
shit.
ass, didn't he?
Dude. Oh my god, he's the one who would like lean in my ear and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Or like I would be like walking with a sheet tray, you know, and he'd be like, "Let's go! What are you doing?"
Dude, yeah. He would call people out from across the room,
which I think
so
about
embarrassing
all the time though. Now when someone's kind of like casually walking with the sheet tray, like don't run, but like, the fuck are you waiting for?
Yeah,
like, come on, man. Like, you know.
Yeah, playing with tenacity, just being like a 110% always. How you walk, how you talk,
everything.
Honestly,
he would tell me to like what to, you know, how to stand. Like, He told me there's this one time we were folding towels, and like we would fold all the towels in the morning, and like we would listen to Manu Chao and shit like that, like all this dope music in the morning, because the bakery team would be there. Get there like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Doing croissants.
Yeah. Oh my god, that smell still to this day.
Shout out to Lupe, best croissants out there. Meadowood.
So we'd be folding towels, and I liked this one long towel that somehow got mixed in. So I had it on my little sign. He's like, "Why do you want that towel?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, why do you want to stand out? Why do you want to be different? You know, with this towel thing." And I was like, and that's when it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, that's what it takes here. You know, I was like, you have to work really hard, but no one's really supposed to stand out too much as an individual.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
It's a team effort, you know, and it's like that.
You don't outshine your mates. You bring them with you.
No, you're not trying to be like that. And it was just a really crazy experience working as the AM cool me there, because it's like you're in a cold room for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, you're in a little refrigerator.
In a little, like, picking herbs and like staying focused through all that, and like you have to be. I remember fucking charcoal day. That was the worst.
Fridays.
Dude. Oh my god. when charcoal would come in and they'd bring it in on like a flat
an entire pallet,
and there was no, I would always be like, why can't we use a fucking dolly? But for some reason we were like, no one was allowed to like use a dolly.
Oh yeah, Meadowood has, they were very territorial about their equipment.
So like, and I would see them in the load and be like, bro, can
we just use one of these?
And we would have to like, you and me would put like literal trash bags on over our chef coats.
That's right.
And then carry these like 25 pounds of charcoal, like run like 2 blocks to throw them into the shed. We're literally like running with these suits on. It felt like boot camp or some shit. It was, and then you would just like go right back to your prep.
Yeah.
And I would be fucking exhausted. Yeah. And that was the pace there, you know. It was really,
we were
inspiring.
always running.
Yeah, always running.
Yeah.
Don't walk.
Yeah. We were like ducks.
Yeah. It was insane.
Elegant on top, running on the bottom, baby. That's how we do it.
But I remember those days like just so formatively because I knew, and like full disclosure, like my ADD is pretty bad, you know, like it's always been, when I was going to school, I was taking medication. I've never done well in school. I had to get my GED because I just dropped out of high school. It's just being in classrooms was so difficult to like stay focused, not call out of turn, like be organized. And I think a part of why I like cooking is that it gives me that structure in my life in a way that I was never able to give myself.
Yeah.
You know? And, but being in Meadowood, it really put a magnifying glass on that for me of like, wow, there's this thing going on in my life that's getting in the way. And it really came to a point where like it became challenging to work there because I didn't know how to organize myself. And it got really difficult. You know, I was doing great as AM Commis because there wasn't like a lot of all of the organization and time management was external, right?
Yeah.
There was a list. I did great off of a list, right? Eloy, and there was a point when Horacio injured his back, so it was just me and Eloy, and we were fucking crushing it in the morning.
Yeah, you guys
it was just me and him.
Yeah, you guys were
doing like 5 people's. There's normally like 5 stages there, and it was just me.
That's why
and
you got
Eloy.
moved up to dinner.
Yeah, because I was just like,
they were like, man, this guy's crushed.
He's fucking
bring him up.
Yeah, bring him up. So I was
the bullpen.
Tableside. Yeah. Oh my God. Working next to, I would prep right in front of Costow.
Yeah.
Which was real fucking stressful.
Oh,
you know? Because like I'm like I have like baby deer ankles. I'm all wobbly. I'm fucking like, you know, like it's all over the place. It's a mess. And then like, you know, so Costa would work right in front of me, and I did the tableside commis position, which was like, you would run food half of service. You would prep half of service and like run food half of service. So you had to like be clean and presentable and not fidgety and like weird at the tables, which
don't be weird,
you know, a little hard to be weird or to not be weird, you know, like I'm like real level 10 focus and anxiety and like at nervous energy. And to do that at a table, you're like, excuse me.
Yeah. Of a dish you really don't know anything about.
No idea. And I'm just like, what is in this? What? It's lamb from Emmy's Ranch. Emily's Ranch.
Amy Ranch.
Yeah, right.
Shout out to Martin Amy.
Yeah.
Out there in Dixon,
amazing
California.
Lamb,
amazing lamb.
Ever.
Shout out.
So I worked tableside commis, and then I kind of like moved to like the pastry too. And I can remember everyone that worked in that kitchen. Dalton worked in that Dalton Thomas, Richard Wang, Carl. What's Carl's last name?
Carl Alexander.
Carl Alexander. Yeah.
He came from EMP early days. He worked with James Kent.
So
Carl
like,
Alexander,
talented. So worked all these. Everyone had worked all these restaurants.
Dalton too. He worked at he was the pastry
Indewolf,
chef,
right?
Yeah, he worked at Indewolf. He was the pastry chef at Ansu in China, the opening pastry chef.
Yeah,
like
just
really,
people who are like so incredibly talented.
Yeah.
So it's I highly recommend Miles, who's like the
executive chef of
child
Ansu.
prodigy of
he's
of Canada.
Is, man, he's one of the most talented people. Just raw talent, like
of just like. Because he did that program in Spain where he worked all over.
He can do anything, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He can honestly do anything.
So just being around people, it was such a great learning environment. Being around people who are so much more talented than I was, you know. But it was getting to the point where like my own struggles with like ADD and like learning disorder stuff started to get in the way a little bit because I had to self-organize, which I was never really good at, you know. And I was taking medication at the time, and the medication wasn't really helping. It was just making everything in my circle was like level 10 important. I didn't know how to say like, okay, I can do this project later. Let me do this first. I just didn't know how. I was still like developing that skill set.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really, really challenging. And, you know, God bless Chef Cat and fucking John, because they really fucking believed in me. And like, I told myself like, I'm going to work here for as long as I can until I can't work.
Yeah,
for it
Chef
anymore,
John and Kat definitely. They were on Team Spence. They were like Spency Wency going get it. Let's go, baby.
And like everyone, all the line coaches would come over and try and fucking hype me up and like
yeah,
give me
dude.
words of advice. Everyone wanted me. I just didn't have the skills to work there yet.
We were rooting for you for sure.
Because for the entire time up until then, I had been working while going to school, so I never like got my ass kicked at a restaurant, which is I don't think I communicated that at all to anyone.
No,
I was just like knew how to talk and like got my way into the restaurant.
But at the end of the day, I think that like we learned something from it.
Yeah,
like you taught us something that like you came in there with almost no experience and you were able to hang for a little while and you got on a station.
Yeah.
That was a really strong thing for the younger guys that were in there.
Yeah.
Be like, wow, this guy's coming in. We like think we need all this experience to go.
Well, I can understand how it would be now. It would be so frustrating to see me with like no experience really at that level and talent doing at your level. I could understand why some people could be like frustrated by that. I totally understand. You've committed your life to this. You're an incredible cook. And here I am like fumbly wumbly, like doing all the, making a scene, but like talking to the chefs and trying to like get in with them and like getting attention from the chefs, how that could be frustrating,
What was the tell the summer squash story?
Oh my God. Okay, here we go. So this is obviously we work at a farm. We work with the farm and they would have 50 pounds of squash, 100 pounds of squash, like all the time,
fucking
right?
Every other day.
Every other day. And we were using it in staff meal. We were using it on a dish. It was used a lot, but mostly we would roast like the big donkey squash for staff meal, right? And it got to the point where everyone was roasting squash for staff meal. And, I think the first person to do something different, like Mark Liu made like, Mark Liu, who's the pastry chef at Cezanne.
Pastry chef at Cezanne.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
He made like squash fritters. And I was like, that's smart. Make, a little action.
Breaded squash. Okay.
Yeah. So he did that. And then, it was great. Kind of passed the eye of Sauron, and then Dalton was making carnitas. Right. And he was like, okay. And Chef Cat was like, no more fucking roasted squash. Chef doesn't want to eat any more roasted squash. He's like, you guys are creative. You can do better than this. So Dalton's making carnitas, and he's like, all right, I'm going to make carnitas. Here's this vegan carnitas spice mix. And I'm like, sick. Okay, I'm going to make vegan carnitas. He's like, use the squash. And I'm like, okay, I'll make vegan carnitas. Never clicked in my head. And I'm like, how would I do that? Okay, I guess carnitas you would roast in the pan first and then kind of braise maybe.
Yeah.
So like, I'll just roast the squash. I don't want to hammer it. Perfect, most incredibly cooked roasted squash of your life. And I'm sprinkling the spice mixture on. I'm like, I think I'm fucking up here. I think I've made a huge mistake. So I put it in the hotel pan for staff meal. I walk over to the pass, and I put it in the hotel pan. And from across the room, Chef Cat and Chef John have already seen what's been going on. They're like, this is a train wreck. We can't stop.
Yeah.
So Chef Cat walks over to me. She's like, she looks at it and she's like, hey, Rich, can I borrow some cheese? Can I use some cheese from your station? He had this like queso fresco that he was doing something with.
Yeah.
So we're like, and then she comes up to me, she's like, we're just going to zhuzh it up. We're just going to zhuzh it up. And Chef Cat is one of the in the kitchen, like at that time, was one of the most intimidating people.
Oh, 100%.
Ever.
Still
like,
is, bro.
Yeah. Like
you don't lose that.
Such a badass, such an incredibly talented woman who you never wanted to let down or fail. Yeah. And she came up to me and like, she had nervous energy of being like, oh, we're just gonna zhuzh it up. I'm like, why are you talking like Rachel Ray? I was like, she's nervous. That's a problem. So we put like cheese on this hotel over the squash to make it look like a football field, which to this day is like, why would we even? Yeah. Like putting it in lines, trying to make it look like something it wasn't. And then Costow, I knew he was coming in because like his red solo cup.
Was in the yep.
Yeah, that's when you knew.
Keys in the drawer.
Yeah, boom, Ching. He's in. He's got his little thing. He walks up with his little binder under his arm. He looks over at this and he like has a quiet conversation with Kat, which I don't know how they did that. They had these like sub-audible conversations like to themselves. Yeah. Looks over at me, looks at the squash, and he's like, from across the room, this is the only time that man has ever yelled at me. And like, literally, he's never raised his voice. Yeah. I was just at a different time in the restaurant. Like, I think he was like, I don't need to yell at this kid. I don't need to yell at this kid.
Yeah.
And he looks at me dead in the eyes like, I am the law. I was like, he went full Judge Dredd on me.
Yeah.
Like
over some summer squash.
But I was like, and I ran over to like the blender to try and start blending the squash. I was like,
what the fuck?
He was like, too late for that. And I just remember I was like, man, I roasted squash. And I like had this whole fucking
yeah.
And like, honestly, like It's, so it was just like things like that, just being like clearly outclassed in a lot of
Chef's
ways.
defense, we were having squash
every fucking day,
a lot of it every day.
But it was just as far as exposure goes, such an incredible learning experience, and I still keep in contact with like everyone to this day. I remember how kind of blood was in the water. Like I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna get 86 from the spot at some point, but I'm gonna fucking live it up while I can.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, you gotta fuck kick me out, So they told me, Howard Coe left to go to like be the chef at Goose and Gander. And he hit me up on Facebook Messenger. He's like, hey man, how's it going? Real nice, And he's like, if you ever want a job, let me know. I'm like, that's weird. He hit me up. I must be doing, I'm a commodity. People are hitting me up for jobs. Little did I know, it's like I was probably gonna like get shit canned
like,
soon.
I'm a hot boy.
Yeah. So I was like, I told Chef Kat, I was like, yeah, isn't it weird? Howard hit me up about a job. Ha ha ha. And she's like, huh, that's weird. And then literally 5 minutes later, Howard texts me in all caps. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you ever tell Chef Kat I'm trying to poach you? And I'm like, I didn't. The idea had gone so far over my head. I had no fucking clue what was going on. It was just fucking hilarious. But she would like shoot me a text because like Costa sent me down. I was like, look, man, I don't think you're gonna work out here.
Right.
But Chef Kat thinks you're gonna do a great job. Like he was like, she believes in you. I think she's making a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Which in reality, like I wasn't gonna overcome.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't gonna fucking change, but I was working as hard as I could every day.
You were doing the best you could.
That's what to me is like feels like we made it a great
situation.
situation.
Why when you left there, I was like, there was no hard feelings of he failed. Like, trust me, I seen motherfuckers shit can from there, and you were not the worst. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I'm fine. I was always fine being the worst cook in that kitchen because of my peers. My philosophy is always like turn your idols into your rivals. And it's like I knew I would have my own restaurant someday. And like I knew that this was just a step, and like it was inspiring. It's fucking sucked first, but like it was really inspiring now when I look back at it, like just to have been in that circle and to exceed any other restaurant I ever go to will never be like that kitchen.
No,
standards wise, quality wise, you know what I'm saying? Like
what you're saying.
It's a different thing. Unless you work there, you'll never know.
Yeah, it was a special place, and I just wonder how many kitchens are like that today.
I mean, there's good and bad about it too. Like some people, objectively, it was hard for them to work there for a number of different reasons. But like the food was amazing. Chef's level of like his passion for what he believed in.
Yeah.
Was like a fucking drug.
Well, you had a mission.
You had a fucking mission.
You had a mission.
It was like Voltron every day. Like,
and everybody, there was like a whole planning team that was planning the mission.
And it's very hard to be in that environment if you don't buy into it.
Right.
You have to buy into it.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid.
Unfortunately, so
you got to jump in.
Costow, yeah, exactly. So Costow was like, look, man, I want to help you out. He got me a job at Red Restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah. Worked there for like a year and a half. Just an incredible fucking kitchen. Brandon Rosen and Richard Reddington, namesake. So this is a restaurant, classic wine bar restaurant. Well, not wine bar, like a restaurant in Napa Valley that was just doing really incredible, like, the chef worked for Danielle, and he worked for all these chefs in France. And Chef Richard Reddington is a fucking legend. One of the most talented natural cooks I've ever met in my life.
Brad Pereira is still his chef.
Shout out to Brad over in
Shout out to Brad at Redwood.
One of my closest friends to this day.
It's funny. I was talking to somebody about Brad Pereira yesterday, and they were like, I don't know how he gets such hot women.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, I know. I know.
And I'm like, bro, he's he's hung like a horse. Who knows? You know what I mean? Hey, it's all good, Brad Pereira.
Man, he's gonna fucking yell at me.
It's all hey, whatever.
No, I fucking love
Shout out to you, Brad Pereira, out there, hung like a horse, chef of Redwood in what city?
It's Red.
Or Red? Where is it?
Rochester.
In Rochester.
Doing some amazing food.
Yeah, doing amazing food.
Tom Segura just shouted him out on Instagram for his food.
Dope.
Yeah, insane.
Hell yeah, man.
Really proud of him. His food is fucking amazing. But so I worked there. Brandon Rosen, Tommy Mayett. And that's where I really learned how to cook and be a line cook.
Right.
Because Brandon Rosen worked at EMP, worked at the Laundry, opened Bennu.
Super young
when he was like all the incredible pedigree, one of the best, like such a talented chef.
Really.
And then Jesus Loyola Corazon was the sous chef there. One of the most amazing cooks I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Such a fucking badass. Someone who you just want in your fucking corner when shit goes wrong, you know?
Annabelle Atkins was the pastry chef?
Amazing pastry chef.
Yeah. She's got Samia Baking Company out there in
shout out
Houston. Houston, Texas.
And like tons of people have worked at Red. David Meyer, who worked at Verjus in the laundry for a long time, he worked at Red Restaurant.
Right.
What's the chef's name at Avery? Rodney.
Rodney worked at Red.
Yeah.
Really?
I fucking believe that. Yeah. David Chavez, who was the GM at.
Is that where they all went after the French Laundry?
I think so. Yeah. I was like, I had a great experience working there. Just really learned how to be a cook. And Reddington at that point he was a yeller. You know, there would be jokes like you could hear him outside the dining room.
Oh, 100%.
But it was always the way the way a dog barks.
Yeah.
And that it's just like loud noise. And it really trained me to respond under pressure.
Yeah.
I think because now when
the bullets were flying and you just stayed
cooking.
Yeah.
You know,
disciplined.
Like, he would do this thing where he'd come up behind you and go, yeah, like when you're reaching for something in dry storage. And when I finally left the kitchen, it would get to the point where he'd try and spook me and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But then like a plate would drop in the kitchen and people would just keep cooking, or like no one got spooked. And I think that was his way of responding to stress and somehow training people to respond to his style of like coaching. Because if you clam up when he's yelling at you, you couldn't cook. You wouldn't be able to function. So he needed people to know how to function when he was yelling.
It's like Tiger Woods when he's training and his dad's like playing cymbals behind his head.
Exactly,
when he
like
was young.
that.
It was like just,
you know, I think that like at the end of the day, maybe if he was just like open and honest about that, it would have been better. But like I still have the skill of like being unfazed by like working through adversity, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really where I kind of like was able to work through a lot of my struggles with like ADD, like impulse control, understanding how to organize myself a lot better, and just doing that in a fast-paced environment where it was like it wasn't life or death every night, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
At Meadowood, it was much easier to learn. Because I, different learning styles.
Yeah.
Like it's just that environment in the kitchen.
I think Meadowood was a finishing school
for sure.
Yeah,
and I honestly
like you got your doctorate there.
I benefited by being there and being and seeing that and being a fly on the wall there. So Red was incredible. And
it was like you were in high school and you were going to college for a semester.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, I get to drink beer with the big boys. Yeah, exactly.
I had worked at Red for a long time through a really pivotal point in that kitchen. And there was a time to either become a sous chef there or move to the city. And to this day, I wish I had stayed on to become a sous chef and just worked there for another 2 years, because I really would have benefited more from staying somewhere for a long amount of time.
Right. That's how you learn the management side of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you, from what I find, the cooks and chefs who move around every year, they learn more how to cook.
Yeah,
they learn different styles, whatever. Harder time to manage because they haven't been at the spaces enough time to like establish themselves as a credible manager, leader.
Yeah,
totally. And that takes a long time. That was my experience.
And that's honestly where I learned how to vary my coaching strategy for each person. Like it really depends on, some of the kids, some people you can't clap your hands behind and tell them to move faster. Let's go.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
It doesn't work. That would it was time to move, and I was staging. I staged at 3 places. I staged at what's it called, Liho in the city.
Right.
I staged at Lazy Bear, and then I staged at not Alter. What was the restaurant that Brett Cooper had?
Which one?
He was like an old Qua guy. I'm totally blanking on the name, but it was like a very successful San Francisco restaurant. So I staged there.
Still open today? No,
close. I think he's in LA now. So I staged there, and I decided on Lazy Bear, and just wasn't the right decision. I think that like I thought I wanted to be in a Michelin-starred kitchen again, like at a 2 Michelin-star level, and that's where I realized like that cooking just isn't my style anymore.
Right.
And there's a lot of personality in that kitchen. There's a lot of like Joe Sasto was there before he went on Top Chef.
Right.
And then who else was there? Matt Hanley, who I think is one of the chefs at Osito now. Chris Johnson, who was an old Qua guy. Just a lot of personality, and just like after coming from Meadowood, I was like, I'll never work. No other kitchen is gonna be like that, and I don't think I really want any other kitchen to be like that. I want to go and like explore more of this like 1 Michelin star level, like in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I worked there for a month, and it was just kind of like a weird environment, doing like 40 plates at once. Like one of those plates has to be cold. 40 plates at once. Like, somebody's getting cold fucking food.
I always ask, like, or wondered, do you guys like get out earlier because you're feeding the banquet, or like
no,
I never understood.
It's 2 seatings, and like there's still deep cleaning and shit like that. I mean, the chefs who are on it now are fucking super dope. It's a couple. They're like co-CDCs.
Yeah,
they're super great. I'm sure the food must be different now, but
I gotta get them on.
Yeah, I'll connect them.
Do it.
EP credit, right?
Do it up. Yeah, that's right.
So it just wasn't the right kitchen for me. And then I went and staged at Statebird in the Progress, and Brad was working there at the time.
Yeah.
Gabby Medea, and
was Connie working there?
Connie was working there.
Was Ting Ting working there?
Ting Ting had just left.
Ting Ting. Shout out to Ting Ting.
I staged at Statebird, and they told me I did a good job on my stage because normally you eat the whole menu.
Yeah.
Or they feed you the menu, and I was the only stage that's ever eaten the entire menu on a stage, like crouched behind a low boy, like here, try this. So that's like if they feed you a lot. Yeah. And then I went and staged at the Progress, and like I had half a hot dog at the end of service. I was like, did I fuck up here? Like, what did I do wrong? And they're like, no, Chef Stewart was expediting, so people just felt weird about giving you a lot of food.
Half a hot dog.
At the end of the night, it was a cook. I'd be like, I'm gonna fire a hot dog. I'm hungry. Oh shit! All right, you want half of this hot dog? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
So I worked at the Progress for like a year and a half, and it was one of the most incredible restaurant experiences. Yeah, it was one of those restaurants where I developed lasting, lifelong friendships with people.
Right.
Connie McGuire was my chef there. She was,
dude. Connie is a badass.
Oh my god,
hot.
This woman is an
sexy
incredible
woman. I'm sorry, but she is just like every time I see her, I'm like, yo, I cannot with this right now. You know what I mean? Just got that it factor. I'm like, Connie, yeah. No offense to your boyfriend.
No, Austin's Austin's the homie.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Love him.
Yeah.
So she worked at WD-50.
Yeah, with Andres.
With Andres, yeah, who's my new daddy.
Yeah, that's right. New daddy now.
The new chef, the new daddy. Andres is the chef of Snail Bar, and is the chef owner of Slug Bar.
That's right. He was on the episode Chef's Panel.
Yeah.
I'm also going to reissue his episode.
Oh, cool.
With Peter LaRue. I got to have Peter LaRue on himself.
Yes.
With a couple of winos.
So Connie worked at WD-50. She was just an incredible chef. Like all my friends to this day, a lot of them are still cooking. Just incredible people who you don't really see that at restaurants. People don't hang out after work anymore.
No.
But because 2 restaurants were next to side by side each other,
there's always something going on.
There would be like a 10-person group of people at every bar that we went to, and they were all just cooks from Statebird and the Progress. And that's really where I developed like a community of friends here in San Francisco. While I was there, I met my girlfriend, so huge pivotal moment too.
Oh wow.
She didn't work there, but we met online. But like just that, working there is when I, developed this relationship with my girlfriend. Yeah. So just all these big moments happened in my life while I was there.
When things are going good in your professional life as a cook and chef, I think you have more confidence for your personal life.
Oh, totally.
When you don't feel like a piece of shit every night,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can like actually go out and like have some bit of confidence to actually talk to a woman and not be like, oh, I'm a piece of shit, and it definitely shows. Like after you get a certain amount of skill in the kitchen, it turns to confidence. And you start to wear that. You start to walk. Like I when I saw you, I was like, this motherfucker looked tall as fuck. I didn't know you were taller than me. And it's like when I met you, that's right. You were slouching. You're like, kind of crouching. And now you're like fucking squanto, dog, with your fucking big ass burly matzo ball chest out.
Hell yeah.
Just fucking slaying it out here.
You know where I started to develop a lot of that was we would play basketball.
Yeah.
With the Meadowood team.
Yeah.
And of course, go figure, I'm not the best at basketball when I first started.
I mean, you were the worst.
Yeah, literally the worst.
Richard Wang, one of the best.
Yeah, insane. John, incredible. Yeah, John. I don't know where all these people came from that were amazing at like when do you have time to practice? Like John, incredible.
John, Richard.
Threes from anywhere.
Miles was
Richie
good.
Buckets.
Colby used to break his arm every weekend.
Yeah, right.
Dislocate his shoulder.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Just power through.
Yeah.
And I remember because everyone was all still working there, and I would play with you guys every Sunday.
Yeah, we played every Sunday.
And I told, I was the only one that was allowed to cover Costo. Because no one wanted to hurt Chef. Like, someone would play it. Everyone would play it. It was fucking like street ball. Like, people would play aggressively.
We were playing aggressively.
Carl would be fucking pulling on your shirt, saying it's a foul on you.
Arguing and shit.
Yeah, like talking shit while you're trying to make a free throw.
Dude, fucking.
So I was the only one who was allowed to cover Costo, and I could play a little rough too. Because no one wanted to hurt Chef. I was like, fuck, I'll fucking, I'll roll this motherfucker around. I don't care.
All good. Your birthright, bro.
Dude, yeah, hell yeah. It was so fun. Yeah, we would all talk shit. But that's where I kind of like wasn't realized that like confidence in the kitchen was kind of like real important. And
yeah,
I kind of definitely developed that from a technical standpoint a lot at the Progress, working with Stuart Briosa, you know, just such an incredible chef, really mentors really well. Incredible place to work as a line cook. You know, he is one of the most, as far as like during service goes. So I came from, you know, all these crazy restaurants, and like for him to be like, hey, that's not cool, let's do it again. That's like where I first realized there was kind of like another way of like communicating,
leading.
Leading.
He's involved,
and he definitely gets a little. You know, he can get kind of crazy. Obviously, all chefs can.
All chefs,
go wrong. Yeah,
because they care.
Because they care. You know.
Honestly, I'd rather that than have somebody that looks at you doing the wrong thing and doesn't tell you any different and just lets you fail.
No, that's like
and
hold people accountable, but hold them. You know, do it without emotion.
Exactly.
So he, you know, learned so much about cooking from him and just his philosophy about food. How I come up with dishes is definitely based off of his method of like, okay, what's in the larder, what's in season, and what do we have to work with? Like that's how I develop most dishes. You know, that kind of 3-step method of like, okay, what's coming from the garden right now? What do we have available in our larder? And like, what do we have in the walk-in? Or like, what are we trying to utilize? Or what's the idea behind the dish?
Right.
You know? His wife, Nicole Krasinski, you know, Gabby is a fucking amazing chef. Just incredible people all over that building.
Lovely family there.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. The food's delicious too. So just cooking that way, you know, because everyone thinks like, what is California food? And I'll joke and say that like, oh yeah, it's like French food plus avocado and soy sauce.
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly. Yeah,
you know, and like to some extent, you know, so just being there was a great environment. And then I was kind of like getting to the point where I'd worked through the whole line, and it was either, you know, people are treated so well there that they never leave, you know, so it's really hard to get a sous chef position there.
To that kind of restaurant,
which is like,
that's
I know
amazing.
Cooks who have cooked there for 3 years as cooks, you know, at that level, it doesn't happen, you know, so it's just a testament. But it was like, it would mean like not waiting around, but like kind of pushing myself.
The management positions don't open up as much,
you know, and I wanted to continue growing. So my friend Tommy was the AM sous chef at Al's place and told me that there was an open position there. So I went and staged and took the job, and it was just a really intense learning experience at first, working with Aaron London. I think that like he was very upfront that he's like, look, I have ADD too, and like he has like brain fucked ADD out of his mind. Like he's so organized, but if you try to have a conversation with him, he can be very extremely spacey and jump around. But he fucking taught me a lot about controlling that and managing my own ADD, and how he's turned like a debilitating like learning disorder into like an incredible skill for him, you know? So that I think I learned that there, but it was also a very challenging time because at the time he was opening up another restaurant, right? So he wasn't there a lot. And the chef that was there was just having some struggles with substance abuse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like really challenging environment to be, you know, like to try and do my job really well, where the professionalism was so high, and this guy's like, you know, drinking on the job and doing drugs on the job, and like not wanting to feel like a fucking snitch, or like, you know, and like, but still wanting to be like, hey, I sacrifice a lot by working in this restaurant, and it really hurts my feelings and makes me feel like I'm wasting my time if people aren't professional around me.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, why am I missing birthdays so you guys can fuck around, you know? So that was challenging, and so they had to get rid of that guy. And you know, the year and a half that I worked there was great. He does a lot of stuff with like flavored oils. He's a big one of those guys.
I love that.
A lot of like really fast ferments, you know, 3 to 5 day ferments, stuff like that.
That's great.
His food's very exciting. But the kitchen and style of service, you know, was very unique. And Aaron London's a very unique guy. And it was challenging, you know, working with him, because like he's one of those people that is 100% his food.
Right.
But as far as communication goes and like coaching strategy and mentoring, it's just, he just didn't really have that. You know, maybe he could do that for other people, but I didn't get any of that. You know?
Yeah, I think sometimes you can't mentor everyone. Like when you have a kitchen team, like it's like picking your favorite kid.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's just some people that get along with the chef in a different way than you do.
I never built that rapport,
you know?
with him. I think it was tough too, because it's like I didn't really idolize him in the way that like when I was a young cook, I idolized Stuart Briosa, or I idolized so-and-so or Richard Brandy. I didn't ever get that. And he's used to, in order to for that restaurant to run really well everyone's got to be on the same page and drink the juice and be like,
Yeah.
chef's idea
You
is
weren't
the best
drinking the
idea.
juice. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't there yet. I was, I was like kind of,
Well, because you hit that time of like, okay, well now the student has become the master.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
And then
the student has become a
but you feel
student
like
assistant.
Exactly. But you feel like you have an opinion now.
Yeah, true.
And in your
I knew
head,
what I thought was right and wrong,
for 10 years, your opinions to yourself didn't matter. You're
Exactly.
just like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
know?
And then now you're like,
I'm like, do I like this?
Yes.
Do I like this?
Do I like this dish?
Is this dish what I want? It's not.
And that's truly the beginning of the end for anywhere.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so I got to that point where I just wasn't in love with the food anymore. Yeah. And the pandemic, we were already slow because of the pandemic. He was planning on, so he had opened up this deli and the concept wasn't working. So he wanted to rebrand as like global Israeli food.
Right.
But kind of like Zahav almost. Are you familiar with Zahav? Michael Solomonov. Philly.
Yes.
Amazing restaurant.
Right.
Really great food. And I, because I grew up eating, we would go to like kebab spots. We go and get pita and we'd have hummus and stuff like that. As a kid, it was because I grew up, all my friends. Hummus.
Like Mo Mufaraj.
Yeah, right.
Shout out to Mo.
And so we would go to these places with all my friends who were like, I had Persian Jews, friends who were Persian Jewish, friends who were Israeli, friends who were, just a huge melting pot. So I really understand like what it meant to cook Israeli food. Because Israeli food is a cuisine of like, and Palestinian food. Well, Palestinian food is much more localized, but Israel as a nation has a lot of people that have emigrated there right after World War II and after the Holocaust and stuff like that. So that food is much more of a mixing pot. So I was like, this seems fun. I can play with all these different ingredients and flavors and stuff like that. Because I think that like, so he wanted to rebrand his restaurant like that, but the pandemic, he just couldn't make it happen. I was like, I don't want to be the CDC at your restaurant. So I think it's time for me to go. So that was during the pandemic, I was able to do some really cool fucking pop-ups during that time. It was really scary for a lot of people.
That's when you just started
That's when I really
doing your
investing.
own thing, yeah.
That's when I realized like the secret to me and getting out of like, in Westfield, like to get out of the maze, the secret to me was like having my own restaurant. Now I realized investing in myself, starting my own concept, because I was like, I was ready to start cooking my own food, I think. And it was just a moment of like realization for me. So I was doing some pop-ups with the folks from Elda, which is like right near my house. It was originally on 16th and Guerrero, which is an incredible bar. The owners, Eric and Alvaro, both like OG industry vets. Eric's like an OG Quince person. Alvaro's just like an incredible hospitality professional, like people I still consider mentors to this day. So I did some pop-ups with them, and I was doing, it was right around the time when like the whole Bon Appetit thing was happening. And like, I had always been like, well, I grew up eating Chinese food, as a kid. We would go to dim sum restaurants, and then I grew up eating Israeli food. And like, I really didn't understand what it means to me to cook my own food, because I mean, like your background, obviously you grew up eating a lot of Puerto Rican food, right? But I grew up eating Jewish food, but it wasn't like the only thing I ate a lot too, and it's like, is it fair for me to like cook these other foods? And I think, it took me a long time to like get out of that. Like, you can't cook this type of food or you can't cook that type of food.
It's that old judging chef that becomes a part of you because you come from that school of people are like, oh, don't do that. That's wrong.
Yeah. And I think that like,
remember when fusion started to happen?
Yeah.
Not like it started happening it was happening years ago, but when it became a thing, a lot of chefs from my cloth were like, don't do fusion food.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's like, that's what you see everywhere.
Well, that's what,
and we don't even call it fusion anymore. It's just American.
Like California
just American food.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. A lot of that was coming up for me, and I was really struggling with it because like, I could just cook Israeli food, but I'm not Israeli. I could just cook Jewish food, but like I would eat this like on Passover, and then I'd eat lox for breakfast sometimes, but it wasn't the only thing I ate. It's like, what do I want to cook? And does that need to be like, do I need to be that chef, the chef that cooks Asian food, or the chef that cooks Northwestern Chinese food, or, and I was becoming more and more interested.
You're going to open an Ode to Japan restaurant?
Yeah.
Like all your peers or what?
Yeah, right? No. Like that's not even, yeah.
That single
like all
thread,
the chefs,
baby.
all the chefs, that I had worked for had like, had this kind of like fascination with Japanese food, but it was, or like Chinese food. And like during all the AAPI hate and stuff like that was going on, it was just really hard to see a lot of chefs I worked for not be like, hey, I fucking use these ingredients. I'm a huge fan of this culture. Like, I really support this community. I have, 90% of my staff are Asian or have a, and like not hearing them speak up about any of that was really challenging,
Yeah.
Because at least be like, hey, this community has supported me. I want to support it back, So I was cooking, I did like a menu of, I made like a yogurt flatbread, and then I put cumin lamb in it. And I worked with the chef she was doing a pop-up called Into On. Her name is Into. She has a restaurant in Oakland called Joe's. Really amazing Thai food. But I was working with her on this, like trying to do like a traditional Thai style sausage, like red curry in it. So I was trying to like, okay, well, if I'm going to mix one culture here, I want to try authenticity in this way, which authenticity is kind of a ridiculous concept anyways. But because what's authentic? Yeah, there's no such thing as authenticity. But so I was like doing some good food, but I didn't really feel like the concept really. I had a concept yet, and it was either keep doing pop-ups and then eventually open a restaurant, or like go back to cooking in restaurants that were already open.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine hit me up about a restaurant that he was working at that he was going to open called Itria. And at the time, it was either help him do that or be the chef at this restaurant called Buddy, because Alvaro, who was one of the owners at Elda, had mentioned that he was opening up this new project with Nick Torres, who is who owns True Laurel and was the bar guy at Lazy Bear for a long time. So he hit me up about that and basically said that, like, hey, we have this great concept. We want you to be the chef. And I did a tasting for them. And their model was such that originally was that like they wanted everyone worked one position. So like one night you would be a cook, and then one night you would serve. And they were trying to like address that problem of like inequality.
Front of the house, back of the house.
Because I've worked at restaurants where like the tip pool is like servers make 10 times what line cooks make in tips.
Servers make what a manager makes.
Yeah, even more sometimes.
Yeah.
Like and I just don't think that that's fair. At its core, I don't think it's fair that someone should work 6 hours or 8 hours and walk out of the restaurant with $400, and part of that you don't even claim on your taxes.
Yeah,
and then the line cooks are like, working and making like a third of that.
Or working for 3 times more than that.
Yeah, and getting yelled at and doing all this shit. So they were addressing this issue that I thought was really interesting. But at the end of the day, I wasn't quite ready to be a CDC. I don't think. I had to like really take a long time and think about it. Like, this is essentially an untested concept, and it's not fair for me to learn how to be a CDC with something that's new. You want someone who knows how to do this so you can make your concept work. You know? And I think they're now just I don't know if they're still doing that model or not. But I think it was the right decision to make, to not take, because I wanted to be a chef. So I wanted to be the CDC so bad of a restaurant at that point. I was like, I'm fucking ready for it. But it took a lot of coaching. And Jeff actually helped me make that decision.
Right.
Took a lot of just coaching to be like, I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet.
You're never ready.
No. And that's what we always said at Meadowood, was like, there's no such thing as ready, only ready enough. And I wasn't ready enough.
You jump in and
I think I had to figure other stuff out first. So I took this job at Itria and worked with Daniel Evers and Angela De La Cruz. Shout out Angela. And it was just an incredible experience. I was the AM sous chef, did fish butchery every day, got to put dishes on the menu, got a ton of great press. Soleil wrote a great article about us. It was just an incredible experience, because my first Italian restaurant, and I'd never really done Italian food at that professional level before. And it's such a different ethos.
It really is.
Just like put less on the plate.
It's fun.
It doesn't fucking need all these garnishes and items.
Yeah.
And like all the process.
It's not too fussy.
I would pitch dishes to him. He's like, no, just this.
Yeah.
It's crudo.
Stop.
Two touches. And now to this day, I'm like, I try and garnish everything like I would garnish a crudo. Like 1 or 2 touches, a sauce, puree, maybe that's it. And just that taught me so much about cooking, that idea of just like, do less and let the technique and the flavor shine.
Yeah. I think French food is like a symphony, whereas Italian food is very much punk.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like fucking,
hell yeah.
3 people just flavor.
Pasta,
bread.
Yeah. Bread.
Yeah. And then you're done. And you're like, wow.
It was just a great experience, and getting to work with seafood every day was just like, okay, this is what I want. I want to be the chef that only works with vegetables and seafood, like predominantly, just getting to do fish butchery every day was really just as a physical experience, really exciting.
Yeah.
You know, like when you work a fish station, you're doing fish butchery. Like it's just it
When
can be stressful. You know, when the fish, the texture of the fish isn't right, or you're dealing with quality. You know, every day something's different. The fish can be a little fattier, a little drier, a little wetter. You know, but it was just a great experience getting to coach the team. And I did that for a year and a half. And that is when I started talking to Andres about Slug Bar.
Right.
Yeah.
And did he approach you about Slug Bar, or?
Yeah, he did. So he said he was opening up this concept. He might be opening up this concept. And I met Andres through Connie.
Right.
Connie and David Yoshimura at Nicest, who I've, are my friends. And like I would, they would like talked about going to Snail Bar, and I was like, oh, I can go. Because anytime I go and I know someone there, I always like to talk to Chef. Be like, hey, what's up? Like, just wanted to say the food was amazing. Like, so-and-so recommended I come here. So Andres, I went and ate there, and then Jeff Davis did a pop-up there, and I hung out with him at the end of the night at the end of the pop-up. You know, we were just drinking wine, celebrating. And, Andres and I got to talking, and we had like a conversation about like food and something random. I didn't really think too much about it. We just had a good conversation, right? At this like after party essentially for Jeff's pop-up. And then a couple weeks later, he gives me a call and he's like, hey man, I want you to be, I have this great opportunity. And usually when a chef hits you up about something like that as a cook, you're like, okay, you're going out of town. You need someone to work. You need someone to cover a shift for 3 days. It's going to be cold, hard cash. Baby. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let me hear your pitch. What are you going to pay per hour? And he's like, I want you to be the chef at Slug. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, man, I just, I think we had a really great conversation. It's rare that when I talk to someone, they know names, like, names, like they understand food, and personality is really important to me. And it was just so weird to like, it's the only job I've ever gotten just off vibes. Like just like, honestly, we clicked and it was the
greatest stories of chefs are because of vibes.
Yeah.
Like I was telling somebody the other day, and this theory that I have of like, we don't go out enough as a kitchen culture anymore.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
The best restaurants that you've been to, the best ideas, the best friendships, like partnerships have been made over beers at the bar.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Everyone in the kitchen is too busy cooking to be networking.
A Miller High Life that's like a little frozen because the little boy's fucked up at Shiba.
And when you go out after and you have those beers and it loosens you up and you talk about ideas and without the like constraints of the kitchen, it really just brings another dynamic of like a little bit, friendship, partnership, and you get no strings attached to look into what somebody thinks.
Totally. Totally. So it was just a great opportunity, I think. And, we're going to be working with Shared Cultures, which is amazing. Their stuff is so fucking phenomenal. Yeah. They do misos and ferments, stuff like that. I'm mostly going to be focused on like a lot of seafood and vegetables. Just that's my background between Al's place, who had Blue Dane Farm, which is biodynamic farm, and then the farm at the Progress and Statebird, incredible biodynamic farm. Jeff, who was the farmer at Ubuntu, where Aaron London worked for a long time. He was the chef after Jeremy Fox. That's why I call Jeremy Fox my grand chef, because he's the chef of Aaron London. He was Aaron London's chef for a long time.
Yeah.
So just that lineage, right? Yeah, the family tree.
Because you got David Kinch in there.
Seriously. I mean, Richard Renty worked for Daniel Balud.
There's a lot of history within you.
Yeah, right?
The knowledge of your cooking. Yeah, for sure. That's what's cool about it, It's like these guys, like I always say that sometimes you don't realize that your story is being written until years later. You're like, oh, that was what was happening at that time.
Wow.
And it's like every day you're writing history. Like when we went to the bar with Jeff at CDP, I told you, it's like back in the day we used to hear about all these guys running together, Bourdain, Zimmern, hanging out in New York and like getting hammered and doing whatever. And it's like, now we are those guys. And 10 years from now, those cooks, the fans, the chefs will be like, oh yeah, I remember Spencer before he had a Michelin star. You know what I mean? I remember fucking Andres before he had Snail Bar and Slug Bar and fucking, Small Critter Bar, whatever other fucking animals he's going to name it.
To the farm LLC.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I love it, man.
Yeah, it's good. So I'm really excited. The concept.
fine dining place called Amphibian.
Yeah.
Like that.
Turtle shell.
Yeah.
So the concept is going to be, we're working to have like DJ sets every night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So very similar to kind of like, this new like wine bar dance hall thing that's going on, like Bar Time, amazing, really awesome, great group of people. So Andres wants to have a DJ booth.
Yeah,
and
that's what I saw when I went to Paris.
Yeah, just like right.
Wine
so it's
bars
like
and DJ
what's
booths.
new to us.
Like,
what's new to us here is the thing that's been going on like that. Like I think you call it Cave à Manger, which is like this combination. Verjus did this too. Combination wine bar, restaurant, wine shop.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like the central theme for Snail Bar and for us as well.
Yeah.
But we're also going to have a DJ set. So the food is going to be very small, fun, casual.
Amazing.
And it's going to be, and then at, 9 o'clock or whatever, people are going to start dancing. We're drinking more wine.
Turn up.
A little less food. And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited to cook without boundaries. And like, the thought of having my own menu now is really exciting. And the chance to really flesh out ideas that I've
you get to wake up and do it.
Yeah, shopping from the farmer's market,
yeah.
going to it and deciding like, okay, these look peaches. I'm gonna put the peach dish on the menu, and like,
and
this
it's
is what
real.
I want to cook, and it's fucking real, And like, I think that like, I've never really been that talented of a cook. I've always realized that okay, that's why I got my bachelor's. That's why I decided I have these other skills that once I got to like the management level, I really was able to develop coaching people. Like I said, I've been on both sides of the fucking coin of like, the worst and the best, like I've really understood what it's like at all these different levels. So now I get to share that information and bring people up. Like my philosophy is your systems should be such that you can make the worst cook in your restaurant able to produce the best food ever.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And if you can't do that, then your systems aren't there, right? And you're not able at coaching,
I would always tell my cooks, I'm like, if I drop dead, can you do my job? If
exactly.
you can, if the answer is no, then I have failed.
I've failed, right?
Yeah,
like one of the things that makes House Plate a Grace restaurant is that when Aaron London is there, it fires on all cylinders, right? But the problem is that sometimes when he can't be there, if he's opening up another restaurant, whatever
it's different.
It's different, and people, you train people. Either you train people to be you, or you train people to rely on you, right? And I want to train people to be me, and I want to train people to like make decisions,
be better than you,
to be better than me, and like make the right decisions, and like that to me, I think is comes from a lot of just like getting kicked in the ass a lot, and failing repeatedly, and then learning how to pick myself back up, and doing it with compassion. Like I understand what it's like to get fucking yelled at. I understand what it's like to be coached and like have that feeling of like someone's like, yeah, fucking let's go. Like the team's all together and firing on all cylinders. Like crushing a successful service is one of the best highs in the world.
Yeah.
Like that Friday night, we just fucking dominated the first turn. Like it's an incredible feeling that like people don't really understand how amazing that feels, because it's a confluence of all these factors of people committing their lives to something and it going well. Like winning the championship, I'm saying? Like so many each little part is so important.
Yeah. In a business that, 365 days a year, you fail 250 of those days.
Yeah.
And then you got the other 165 between days off and whatever else to like pick it up. And, I think chefs are very special in that we internalize a lot. We take a lot on when we necessarily maybe don't have to.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not just the food, it's the well-being of the employees. It's, am I good enough every day? The feeling of like imposter syndrome of like, oh, now I'm the executive chef, a position that you revered 10 years ago, and now it's you.
Yeah.
And there's no other, so what's good for you is that you have that mentor in Andres to turn around and say, hey, what should I do in this position? Or,
totally.
Hey, what do you want here? And also unbeknownst to him, he is changing the game because he's giving you the runway to be the chef of Slug Bar, and he doesn't want anything to do with being the chef over
it's
there.
like that blows my mind about it too. It's like I was like, so hey, so are you gonna transition over from Snail Bar and like kind of be the chef here for a little while we first get going? He's like, nah, man, like I want you to fucking fly.
Yeah, dude.
And like that's just for someone to invest in me in that way is like really inspiring. I'm really excited. Yeah. You know, and
you're gonna work harder because of that.
Oh, for sure. Are you kidding me? Because now it's like I'm making the decisions. And it's like it was so much easier to work, you know, all these hours straight through my own pop-ups, because it's like once it's not someone telling you to be there when to be there, it's so much easier to like honestly when you built this, I'm sure you fucking spent all fucking night on it and just all of your time, because it's your own thing and it's easier to invest in yourself than it is to someone else's dream. You know, you know, working on someone else's dream is great. It's a great feeling. But once you get to do that for yourself, committed to yourself,
and then create a community of people that want to do the same with you.
Yeah.
And eventually grow enough to move on and share your legacy with the world. You know, all the things they learned about you, all the things that you taught them, all the like.
And that's one of the really great things right now in the food scene in Oakland and San Francisco is that all of the people who are my contemporaries, I have friends that were cooks and sous chefs, are all chasing their dreams and fucking doing all these cool projects. Like Eric Eller with Pizza Out of Sight.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing chef. And now he has his own pizza place because not because of the pandemic, but it's because he's like, okay, I'm ready to fucking do this shit.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin Tang, who has Claws of Mantis, he was doing these incredible like Vietnamese inspired pop-ups during the pandemic. And now he's the chef at Viridian, where we were there. That was the guy I was talking to the other night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a podcast with him too.
So just like all these people are like living, Into was a cook at Nari for a long time. And now she is the chef at Joe's. Like Jeff had been the chef at True Laurel for forever, you know, for a long time, for like 5 years or something. And he'd always wanted to do his own thing. And now it's happening. And like all these people are like choosing themselves in an unselfish way, but also it's a little not that it's selfish, but like they're committing to themselves and be like, this is my chance now to chase the dream, which is something I wish I had done when I was a younger cook, you know, to like really invest in my own dream, look in the mirror and be like, do I want my own restaurant someday? Yes. Okay. Then what do I need to do it?
Exactly.
Rather than just like going out and partying and drinking with your friends. That you can lose a lot of years like that as a cook.
There's a time and a place to do that.
Yeah. But it's but it's different when it's just like getting through the job and you're like just getting through the day and then going out and partying, you know?
Yeah. When you're playing hard and working hard, that's when it matters. That's when it's awesome.
Yeah.
When you're, you know, working haphazardly and then going out, you know, and kind of just getting hammered to forget about what you're doing, that's when it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's to all the young cooks out there, man, you spend your time chasing women, chasing, you know, a lot of things that you shouldn't be, and you should be kind of honed down on your craft. And honestly, I think in our generation, we're sort of the last frontier of people who it's a good idea for them to do one thing their whole life.
Yeah.
Like now there's so many decisions and it's okay to switch careers. Like back when we were growing, you didn't fucking change careers.
No.
That wasn't a cool thing.
Yeah. I remember people would get shit for all these guys doing private chef shit. And I'm like, dude, I fucking wish I did like a year of private chef stuff. Like the freedom it gives you, the chance to like do things you want to do, see your family, still cooking.
Yeah.
Like I always hate it when people would shit on someone for doing the private chef thing. Like, what are you mad about? This person is able to make money. Like
chill
those
out,
jobs,
take care of the things that they want to do.
Private chef jobs and a lot of like tech jobs are the reason why I'm getting paid more money than I was before the pandemic. Are the reason why line cooks are getting paid more money before the pandemic. Those people taking those jobs and saying like, this is unacceptable, we don't have to live our lives like this as chefs, is the reason, is what I can thank them for, like the overall, like a rising tide raises all boats, right? You know, that's one of the contributing factors. You know, people just, it's not worth it, you know? So I'm very stoked that like I have friends who do that and it's like a valid career now, and you can be happy doing it and still get to cook, you know?
When is Slug Bar opening up?
Slug Bar tentatively opening second week of July. Second or third week of July. So
thank you for not saying a date, because people just I heard on Sucio Talk you guys were open on the 10th.
No.
You didn't hear it here first, all right? All right. So fucking Slug Bar.
Yes, sir.
Love that. Great conversation with you. I'm sure I'll have you on the show again.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Do a chef's panel with you, Jeff, and another hooligan out here.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Maybe get in it. But yeah,
I'm excited just to continue funneling people to talk on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
That's I love connecting people.
Yeah,
like that.
dude,
that
is exactly why I started the show. It's a great way to.
It's
connect.
like when you get your friend a job, or when you get your my buddy's opening a restaurant. Let me hook him up with this shit.
Yep.
Every time I do that with you with Chef, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like
I'm saying it right now. Like all those young cooks out there listening, you need a job, Slug Bar.
Boom,
my man's looking to mentor. He's looking for some mentees.
We'll make staff meal.
Yeah, we'll make staff meal. Yeah. Chill out with a positive environment. We'll make great food, and you got Daddy Andres right there, and, which is the James Scheibout of this generation here in Oakland.
Yeah,
and Oakland is rising and growing in the food scene, and I can't wait to see what happens here in the future.
Yeah, so excited. Thank you, Chef. Thank you so much, Chef, for having me on.
Fucking Sucio talk. Peace out. See you guys later. Spencer Horovitz. That's it.
That was great, man.
Yeah, man.
I feel like I talked a lot, but that's fine.
It's all good.
That was